Today, we're going to be talking about some of the most atmospheric horror experiences the FNAF community has ever produced. These games prove that incredible horror comes from immersive worlds, haunting sound design, and an overwhelming feeling that something is always lurking nearby. Some of these don't need constant action to leave a lasting impression, so let's get into it. Insanity is a broad term with different meanings depending on the context, generally referring to a severely disordered state of mind, extreme folly, or a legal designation. It is not an official clinical or psychiatric diagnosis, but rather a catch-all for various forms of profound mental derangement. Truly, insanity is one of the most interesting things that human beings can face, and the various causes of it are truly fascinating to read about. Five Nights at Freddy's games often use the subject matter of insanity, but I don't feel like many of them can ever really do it right. The game we'll be covering today is a little different, that game being Crawl Space Insanity Remastered, one of the newest, coolest, and most challenging FNAF fan games the community has ever seen. We're going to be diving into every single corner of this game's mechanics, storyline, and piecing together everything you need to know. So join me today as we dive into the long-awaited video of Crawl Space Insanity Remastered. All right. I'm not at all ready to start talking about this game. As I'm writing this part of the script, it is currently 6:34 p.m. May 28th of 2026. Throughout this video, I will update you on the progress so you can get a small window of understanding of how much this game has destroyed me. The game opens to a nice prelude, and already I'm upset as this brings up a pet peeve I notice in a lot of games, not just FNAF. For some reason, the subtitles are on the bottom of the screen during the prelude. While that is totally normal for subtitles, when there's nothing to look at in the middle of the screen and it's just this fucking spiral pattern, then move the subtitles to the middle so that it takes up more dead space. I just really hate how this looks. I know it's a nitpick and it doesn't matter at all. But anyways, the prelude reads as follows.
Hello, Fritz. You have fallen. He got you. The floor beneath you shattered, and you screamed as you barreled towards the bottom of the hole. Did you see them? You could have saved them. I will make sure you never forget that, and you will make sure to stay alive the best you can. That's all you will do, and that's all that needs to be done. That's all. For now, you live in the hole.
So, it appears we play as Fritz in this game. And now is probably the time I should mention the thing everybody already knows about this game, just in case there's one or two people who are living under a rock. Crawl Space is a part of the Insanity Remastered trilogy, which is a retelling of the original Dormitibus story, minus all the disgusting shit. If you want to learn more about that, you can check out my video all about the original Dormitibus after this one. With this, we load into night one and we see that this game looks incredibly fucking boring. Let's start by going over the tools at our disposal though. To start, we have our cameras and our flashlight, which are both tied to a battery. It drains really fast, but if you're not using either of those tools, it will recharge itself. That's really all the tools. The phone guy asks us if we know who we are. Of course, we know that we're playing as Fritz and we're currently in a place known as the Hole. We're told that we have to save them, probably referring to the children, but we obviously have to save ourselves first. So let's quickly take a look at all four threats this first night introduces, because yes, I'm serious, there's actually four threats on this stupid fucking night. I'm going to talk about Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy all at the same time, since I'm not kidding, they all do the exact same thing. Yes, I'm serious. Each of them will try to approach you via the giant hallway in front of you. If they ever appear, just pull your camera up to hide from them until they go away. That's literally it. Foxy is somehow even easier. When you see him in the hallway, just flash your light at him like FNAF 2 and he'll go away. Yep, that's it. This is boring as fuck, but I'm willing to bet that you already know exactly why it's boring as fuck, and if you don't, then get ready for something crazy. Once the night hits 2 a.m., this happens. Yep. That's right. The prelude actually includes a fake night 1 and we're booted to the real title screen. You didn't really think I was about to talk about a game with a loop that boring, did you? I would never do that. All right, let's get into the real nightmare that is this godforsaken game. Jumping into the actual night, there is already a lot to go over, so I'm going to try to break it down as best I can while making it as easy to understand as possible, because there really is a lot to learn here. Let's start by talking about the phone call. Phone guy tells us about Bonnie, who we'll talk about in a second, and flipping. I will mention what flipping means later. This game uses two systems, sanity and stability. Throughout the night, your stability will decrease. You'll notice that your sanity never decreases and actually stays full the entire night. How do you increase your stability? Well, that's where this game introduces flipping. Its central mechanic that is actually so fucking AIDS, it actually made me question whether or not I was actually going to make a video on this. When you flip, it quite literally inverts your entire monitor so that everything is backwards. And yes, that does also include your mouse. This game fucks your entire actual monitor and flips everything around. It's easily the most nauseating and confusing mechanic I've ever dealt with in my entire life. It is fucking brutal. When you flipped, your stability will start to increase again. However, in this flipped version of the whole, your sanity will start to decrease, and vice versa once you flip back to the normal version of the game. This is a super fucking cool mechanic, I can't even lie. Probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen. But of course, as you can imagine, playing in flipped mode is one of the most challenging things you will ever do in your entire life. Now, as much as we could talk about that mechanic, this video is already going to be incredibly long, so let's just move on to talking about the next mechanic, that being the power system. Not much to explain here, honestly. It's just a power system from that prelude night. Using things causes it to decrease, not using it makes it recharge. Pretty simple. Of course, we also have our camera and flashlight to go along with that. The final mechanic to mention before we move on to the threat this night introduces are the vents to the left and right of you, because as you can probably tell, this office setup is pretty much just the FNAF 2 layout for the most part. You can seal these vents to the left and right of you, albeit only one at a time. And the reason you would need to do that is because of the only threat this night introduces, Fallen Bonnie. While yes, Fallen Bonnie is technically the only character introduced on this night, he has children. Why? I have no fucking idea who's cracking this monstrosity. Literally nobody, but whatever. He uses his kids to kill us, which is just a crazy thing to say now that I'm saying it out loud. Bonnie will try to make his way to either camera 4 or 5. These cameras are obviously tied to your vents. Once he enters one of these cameras, he will make the quietest sound cue of all time. But since he's the only threat right now, you can really just watch him. Eventually, he will send one of his kids through the vents he's standing at, and you'll have to quickly seal the vent before the kid turns you into an Arby's meat mountain and ravages your insides. Now, there's no penalty for keeping your vent sealed. No power is drained, and your stability and sanity will not decrease. However, if Bonnie notices a vent is sealed for too long, he'll just hot bottom over to the other vent. So the strategy for this night is really just watching him and sealing the vent when you need to. You may be wondering where flipping actually becomes needed, and I'll explain that more a bit later. But for now, sometimes your screen will glitch out, and when it does, you'll have to flip to fix it. I'd flip every time you have to seal a vent to really help you get used to it, since if you want to complete this game fully, you'll have to be doing it a lot. But with that, night 1 comes to an end, and we can move on to the first post-night minigame, which starts with the text, "You won't like what's out there." And if what's out there is Blackout, then you'd be completely correct. I don't like him very much at all, actually. Before the minigame begins, we see what appears to be Cake Bear. I couldn't imagine who else this would be. Moving to the right, we see the text "Not yet," and then the minigame begins by telling us that we need to hold our breath to face death. Just then, we're thrown into a fucking crawl space. Get it? Like the name of the fucking game? Isn't that so fucking cool? Laugh, bitch! Laugh! Anyways, during this minigame, we have to control our breathing and our blinking for some reason. Maybe we're trapped in a spring lock suit or something like that. I'm not really sure. You can breathe by holding space and blink by holding control. Obviously, we need to keep these bars up all the way. Throughout the entire minigame, you'll be able to hear two people having a conversation. Barely. You will barely be able to hear two people having a conversation. I can't lie. It is really fucking hard to hear, and I actually have no idea what they're talking about. If you guys want to tell me, please do. too, because I do not have it in me to decipher the several minutes of muffled audio during these minigames. Of course, there is also a threat to defend ourselves against during this minigame, that being Angel Bonnie. He is incredibly easy to deal with. Occasionally, he will appear on your left side, and all you have to do is hold your breath, and he'll go away. Easy as fuck. Once you beat the minigame, you get the phrase, "back to sleep now," which tells me that the night sections are maybe dreams or nightmares, and then the crawl space is actually when Fritz is awake. Meaning that we're playing as a man trapped inside of a suit, stuffed into a crawl space, which is some of the most fucked up stuff you could ever imagine, and I love it. And by the way, I'm pretty sure that this is in reference to probably Fritz seeing the deaths of the children, not doing anything about it, and then William stuffing him in a suit and putting him in a crawl space like a fucking telltale heart type thing. Which, that's fucking badass. That's badass as shit, I can't lie. Anyways, moving on to night 2, and for a small update, it is currently 7:13 p.m. Night 2 introduces 2 new threats, and along with it, 2 new mechanics. As if this game and its flipping wasn't already stressful enough. The phone guy really just tells us that we're one step closer to our goal. That's about it. The 2 new mechanics are our alarms and our flash beacon. Most of the cameras have alarms. You can just hold the alarm button to make them blare. And on specifically camera 5, we have a flash beacon. We'll go over why we need them in just a second. The 2 threats introduced on this night are Fallen Chica and Fallen Foxy, each of them using one of the new mechanics on this night. Let's start with Fallen Chica. Chica moves around randomly in the cameras and will at random points stop moving to sing. When she starts singing, you have to find her on the cameras. Yes, I know, it's fucking torture all of the time for me in these games. Then sound the alarm on whichever camera she's on. She can actually only attack cameras 1, 3B, 3C, and 6. So there's not a whole lot of cameras you'll have to check, which is why I'm choosing not to complain about it too much. She's not a very complicated character, but when you're playing with your entire monitor reversed, it's really fucking hard to click anything at all. Moving on to Fallen Foxy. Foxy will try to attack you via camera 5. Once he gets there, all you have to do is use the flash beacon and he'll go away. Something you'll notice about all of the characters in this game is that they're all not too difficult. It really and truly is just the flipping mechanic that makes this game so fucking hard. Something to note about camera 5 is that both Foxy and Bonnie can't be present at the same time. So lucky us, if we see Bonnie there, then we know Foxy will never attack us until Bonnie leaves. Really, the best strategy I can give for night 2 is to flip at 1 a.m. and stay flipped until you hear Chica sing. Once she does, you'll have just enough time to unflip and deal with her, then rebalance your flips for the rest of the night. This makes it so that you don't have to do most of the work while flipped, since Chica is definitely the worst to deal with while you are because of how many clicks she requires. But with that, we get the same minigame as before with Cake Bear, and then we go into the crawl space again. This time around, Angel Chica will be added. She's pretty much the same as Bonnie, except she appears on your right, and when she does, just close your eyes until she leaves. Once again, we hear people talking a bunch, except I can't figure out what the hell they're even saying, so let's just move on to night 3. Night 3 is where this game really starts to piss me off. I'm not even lying, it makes me so fucking angry. The only reason is because one of the threats this night introduces, that being Fallen Freddy, the most confusing and annoying character ever conceived by mankind. Fallen Freddy will try to attack your generators in camera 7 and 4. We obviously cannot allow this to happen or he's gonna stick 8 pencils in my ass, which I really don't want. Once he enters one of those cameras, an alarm sound will play. When you open the cameras, you'll see a wire task from Among Us. I'm completely serious, but you shouldn't do the puzzle right away. No. Instead, what you need to do is find Freddy on either camera 7 or 4, then check to see if he's wearing his top hat. If he is wearing it, then you need to complete the task. However, if he isn't wearing his hat, then you need to complete the task incorrectly. I'm not fucking joking. What the hell kind of mechanic is that? That's like the most retarded shit I've ever heard of in my entire life. Now, Fallen Freddy is really annoying, but he's somehow nowhere near as annoying as someone else will be talking about in a little bit. Because this night also introduces another new threat, that being Fallen Puppet. Fallen Puppet will randomly show up inside of your office. When he does, you'll need to quickly waste all of your power. The fastest way to do this is by using your flash beacon, since it empties it immediately. So overall, it's really easy to deal with. However, as you could imagine, you don't really want to be wasting all of your power. And that's because of what I'm about to tell you. Because we're about to talk about how this game really rapes your ass. Night 3 upgrades each character we've seen so far from the first 2 nights and just makes them way fucking worse. So let's start with the least terrible, Fallen Chica. All Night 3 adds to her is giving her the ability to also go to cameras 4 and 5, which makes her way worse because she is just a finder on the camera character. So more cameras equals less fun for Dexter. Fallen Foxy gets the additional attack ability of turning into Withered Foxy, just jumping ass naked into your hallway and flashing his cock to you like the Fent Walker I saw in the park the other day. Just flash your flashlight at him and he'll go away. But now we can move on to literally the worst thing you've ever seen in your entire life, Fallen Bonnie and his stupid fucking kids. For some reason, they also give Bonnie the ability to turn into Withered Foxy. However, he doesn't require you to flash your light at him. You'll never in a million fucking years guess what you have to do to stop him. Here, I'll even give you a multiple choice. When Fallen Foxy enters your hallway, do you have to A, hold your flashlight on him until you run out of power, then wait for the power to turn back on and then flip? B, flip the screen and turn the desk fan off? C, use the alarm on camera 4 or 5 to drag him there and then deal with him normally? Or D, find all 3 of his children that randomly appear on the cameras before he rails you? If you said D, then congrats, you picked the option that would have made me quit the game. No, thank God it's not that. But for anybody who said B, flip the screen and then turn off the desk fan, you'd be completely right because that's actually what you have to do. Why the fuck does this make him go away? I have no idea, but this is the most frustrating thing to do during this game and I fucking hate it with all my soul. The strategy for this night is really tough, I can't lie. Really only flip when necessary or after you deal with Bonnie and the vent attack. Most threats aren't too terrible to deal with flipped, in all honesty, and you should be getting used to it at least a little bit at this point. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention Chica. She can appear on the same camera at the same time as the other characters, and if she does, most of the time you'll just lose. I can't even lie. It's really hard to deal with 2 characters at a time. However, I would recommend dealing with Chica first since most times she'll end up being the bigger problem. Oh yeah, and don't forget that Freddy and the puppet were added on this night. I know you've probably forgotten about that after the 3 other character upgrades, but yes, 2 more threats were introduced this time. Just fucking kill me. I'll also mention here 2 death minigames I stumbled across. I don't know how many there are, but here are 2 I got. Basically, one of them has Fritz finding William stuffing the kids in the suits, and then William puts Fritz in a suit as well. No witnesses type shit. And that confirms my theory that that is why we are present in the crawl space. The other minigame is just a cutscene. It's a conversation between Fritz and another guy named Peter. Peter tells Fritz about the kids and that if he knows anything about it or learns anything to let him know. Hate to break it to you, buddy, but judging by the other minigame we just saw, I'm willing to bet that Fritz isn't going to be able to tell you shit. The post-night 3 crawl space section is much the same as the others, except this time you will also get to see Angel Foxy. His mechanic is pretty easy. You won't be able to see him, but you will hear him making a clicking sound. When you hear it, just spam blink until he goes away. The only slight problem is that Bonnie and Chica can attack at the same time, but always be sure to make Foxy a priority and you'll be just fine. Once again, I can't fucking hear a word that the 2 guys are saying above us since the animatronics are so loud in my fucking ear. So if anybody wants to give us a summary, I'll pin your comment. Moving on to night 4, it is currently 7:48 p.m. for me, so I think I'm making pretty decent time. But during the phone call, we're told that camera 8 has been fixed. And of course, the new threats on this night will relate to that camera. But first, I want to talk about Fallen Bonnie again. Why do I want to do that? Well, he's been given yet another fucking mechanic for some reason. And the best part is that the phone guy doesn't tell you about it, which is just really cool. It's literally the same as his hallway mechanic, except this time he'll appear directly in front of you, which I will admit did scare the shit out of me the first time I saw it. Anyways, on to the new threats this night introduces, because yes, even though this game has already turned into a clusterfuck, it is adding even more to our plate. And the first to talk about is Fallen Spring Bonnie. Spring Bonnie is pretty easy. Probably the easiest character in the entire game. He is who is in camera 8, and throughout the night, he's just gonna try to stand up. If he does, then it's GG and you fucking lose. So sound the alarm on his camera and he'll sit back down. Pretty much he's just a music box, because of course this game had to add one of those. Now let's move on to probably the worst character on Earth, who was just behind Bonnie, in my opinion, Fallen Fredbear. Because the DeviantArt names haven't gotten cringe enough yet. Fredbear wants to attack you through your hall, and he's really good at it. Because unlike every other character in this game, Fredbear makes no sound cues ever, which is actually the worst thing on the planet. Once he's in your hallway, all you have to do is turn your fan off. Thankfully, this time you don't also have to flip. I really don't know why Bonnie has you do that, but what really makes Fredbear bad is the synergies he has, because not only can Bonnie and Fredbear be in the hall at the same time, but Bonnie and Foxy can be in the hall at the same time, and fuck it, I'm not kidding at all 3 of them can be in the hallway at the same time. This is actually just the worst shit anybody could ever create. This game is so fucking hard, it's not even funny. What the fuck am I even supposed to do about this bullshit? The strategy for this night is ass cheeks, I can't even lie. Really only flip your screen for Bonnie and when the screen flickers. Fuck everything else. Keep your camera on 5 to check for Foxy, and never leave a vent sealed after dealing with Bonnie. Whenever you deal with a camera threat, either Freddy, Bonnie, Foxy, or Chica, check your hallway and deal with whatever the fuck is there. Then check on Spring Bonnie and hope you weren't too slow, and repeat. This night is so fucking AIDS, it's really hard to put into words. And we still have another night to talk about. Look at the length of this video. We're not even close to being done yet. During the crawl space section, we get introduced to Angel Freddy. All he does is appear in front of us, and all you have to do is lift your hands off your keyboard and mouse until he goes away. Basic strategy here is always deal with Foxy first no matter what. Then deal with Freddy, then deal with Bonnie and Chica. Crawl space sections are pretty simple. There's not much to talk about, so let's just move on to night 5. Night 5 is literally just fucking chaos. All of the characters' AI are turned up to the fucking moon. I spent so much time on this night, it's not even funny. Probably one of the most challenging nights I've ever completed from any FNAF game ever, and I'm not even lying. But once we reach 4 a.m. is where this night gets interesting. At 4 a.m. a new threat appears and all of the other characters deactivate. This threat is Yellow Bear, and let's just say he wants that juicy booty badly. Once he spawns, he'll choose to start at any camera he wants and slowly make his way to your hallway. You can stall him on the cameras by using your alarm, but he'll never move backwards. But you honestly don't even need to do that, because once he's in your hallway, you can just stall him for the rest of the night by spamming the lights, so he's honestly really easy. The general strategy for this night has you start by focusing on cameras 8, 4, and 5, because Bonnie and Spring Bonnie will almost always attack you first. After dealing with them, check the hallway and camera 5 for Foxy every time you deal with Chica. Only ever check Spring Bonnie after the first time when you have a small bit of downtime, since he has to make it through 5 different phases before he kills you anyways. This night is really fucking hard until 4 a.m. and playing it for yourself would be the best way to understand it, because I quite literally do not have the vocabulary to explain to you how hard it really is. The minigame for this night is weird. There's no crawl space, but we do get the Cake Bear minigame, and this time we're a much more realistic version of Cake Bear. We walk to the right for a very long time and stumble across a withered Cake Bear, I think. I have no idea what this is, and we get the following cutscene.
I'm glad you came all this way to see me, Rats. I'd thought you'd forgotten about me. I think you realize I'm not truly your friend, but I have no reason to lie anymore. I never did. It's out of control. Things used to be so much simpler. I never had to lie. I could just exist. Now look at what I've gone and done. Inviting her and trusting her to respect what I've wanted, what I've already done. If they're a human being, a human conscience, they can never be truly trusted. I guess you already understand that. After what that man did to you, you were destined to die for so long. We've been destined to die. We were all just waiting for it. We weren't even excited. We weren't scared. We just, no, aren't you tired of this? Hasn't it gotten old? It feels like it's been an eternity. We are worn. How much longer are we going to be pushed around? Fall back onto monotony. It's better than piling on to this abomination and seeing that it crashes. Return to your old life. Kill the story. Escape.
Now, while that was weird, what we're about to see gets even fucking weirder. After completing the game, if you click load game, you'll see the words free yourself, and you'll be brought to a Pong minigame where you have to defend a fan from a bunch of whatever the fuck. I have no idea what I'm doing right now. This reminds me of the random Undertale fight from Midnight at Star Stage. After you complete this minigame, we move on to truly the most insane shit of all fucking time. So let's start by saying that this game has 3 endings. What we just saw was the first ending, and now we're going to talk about the last 2. And if you look at the length of this video, you'll be able to tell that we're still going to be here a while. It is currently 8:30 p.m. for me while scripting, so let's lock in. Right here starts the boss fight against the Star, and it's split up into 3 different acts. So let's start with Act 1, which has us inside of the crawl space, and the only threat is obviously the Star itself, and it has 2 forms of attack. The first has him appear on either our left or right side. You will have to spam click on his nose to make him go away. Before, I could argue that the retarded mechanics in this game were because I thought the night sections were nightmares, so it didn't have to make sense, but I'm pretty certain we're completely conscious during these crawl space sections, so I have no defense for why this makes any sense, because it really just fucking doesn't. His second attack will have him say 4 random numbers. You just have to type those numbers on your keyboard for some reason, and that'll make him go away. Alright, now this really just makes no sense, because what could our character even be doing that would have anything to do with the number pad? Fuck it, whatever. Let's just move on to Act 2. Act 2 has more than just the Star boss, and something really weird about this act is that one of the other threats actually calls you and tells you how to deal with himself and the other characters, which I just found super weird. In Act 2, we move from the crawl space to another area called the Deep Zero. There are 3 threats to deal with, and thankfully they're all pretty simple. We have 2 important tools to talk about: the flashlight, which is obvious, and the top panel. Inside of the top panel, we can use a kill switch and something called revitalize, which I'm honestly not too sure the meaning of. The kill switch just cuts the power for a little bit, essentially what you do with the puppet in the main nights. Revitalization fixes distortion when your screen is flipped, because yes, that's still a central mechanic at this point of the game. Silly me, I thought I would have escaped it by now, but I guess God just hates me. Let's start by talking about the threats this act introduces. Starting with Insanity, who is the guy that called us. This guy is literally just the Wither from Minecraft, and yes, he does have an actual human skull, which I do think is pretty cool, I can't even lie. Insanity appears in your left hall with a sound cue, and he himself will never kill you. However, he will disorient you really badly. If you just use the kill switch, then he'll piss off. No real problem here. Again, the characters in this act aren't that bad. Prelude is the next threat, and I really don't know why they gave him that name. It's literally just Freddy. He moves through the cameras with a sound cue to your hallway. You will have to make sure you never look at him on the cameras. I'm not really sure why, but yeah, just don't look at him. Once he gets to your hallway, just use the kill switch, and it's easy. The Star is obviously the final threat in this act, and he has 2 ways to attack you. He will stay on camera 10 for the entire night. His first attack has him appear in your office, working in your face. All you have to do is hit the kill switch, and it'll go away. The second attack has him yell a random number for some reason, and then you'll have to go to that number's camera and stare at him. If you click the wrong camera, you die immediately, so you can't just spam through the cameras until you find him. You need to make sure you're listening, and you do this until 4 a.m. Again, this part is really easy, as all of the characters aren't challenging at all. At 4 a.m., you'll be transported to the main office area from the main nights, except, as you can probably tell, it's distorted as fuck. You get a phone call saying that this will be the last place you'll go until you finally win. He tells you how to deal with him, and Act 3 finally begins. Act 3 is easily the hardest act by far, mainly because the other 2 were super easy. This is also the act that will decide which of the 2 possible endings you will get. Let's get the basics out of the way. The Star has 3 ways to attack you, so let's start by talking about the easiest one. He'll move to camera 4. Once there, you'll need to close the vent as fast as possible, because the Star is fast as holy hell. His next attack has him go to camera 5. Once again, close the vent, but you'll also have to flash him a few times to make him go away. And finally, his third attack will have him scream like an autistic kid in Target when he sees that Pokemon have been restocked and that the scalpers haven't gotten to them yet. When this happens, he just turns into an ice slut. He will randomly move around the cameras, and you'll have to hold the alarm on whichever camera he's on until he stops fucking screaming in my ears minus the S. But of course, this attack is really shitty for one reason. He teleports to a random camera when he screams, so that sucks. But the worst part is that he can move while you're using the alarm, and he doesn't just move to an adjacent camera. No. He teleports to any fucking camera he damn well pleases. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm so sick of these bullshit ass, fuck ass mechanics. Please just kill me already. I could get really mad and scream about this for the next 10 minutes, but I'm gonna be the bigger person and choose not to. Once you complete this final act, you will get the option to either lose your sanity or lose your stability, and whichever you choose will determine your ending. If you choose to lose your sanity, people reveal the crawl space and find Fritz inside of the Cake Bear suit. Fritz hears people talking faintly while he's in a coma-like state. He is then put into a mental institution and the credits roll. I suppose that makes sense. We did choose to lose all of our sanity after all, so the loony bin is probably the best place for us to go. I do think that the reveal that we've been in the Cake Bear suit the whole time is really, really cool, as this game basically just goes to explain where this very important character actually comes from. This is, in my opinion, a perfect example of show don't tell when it comes to storytelling, and I love to see it. However, if you choose to instead lose your stability, Fritz just gets fucking spring locked and dies inside of the Cake Bear suit. We're told that there may still be a chance to find out who the real killer is. We chase after this killer only to find the one, the only Garvey, who is obviously the one who killed the kids in this game. And thankfully, in this retelling, he didn't rape one of them for no reason at all. A spirit talks to us and is for some reason happy that we're dead. Pretty morbid, I won't lie. Since the deep isn't real, it is infinite, and the mind, I have no idea what that means. I hate FNAF lore. It's so goddamn confusing. Someone please translate. It's like what I'm seeing is Japanese or something. I really have no idea. The spirit asks us how much deeper we want to go, and then we get to see the deep 1 as opposed to the deep 0 we saw in Act 2 of the Star boss fight. In all honesty, this was just a super brief overview of both of these endings. They both have interesting minigames attached to them with some pretty cool scenes, like some does bad things guy type scene with Garvey and a bunch of dead kids. It's honestly really cool to see, and I think this game does such a good job at telling the story. Much better than the stupid fucking theater thing from Dormitibus, which just didn't feel like it fit the game at all. And apparently, both of these endings happened at the same time, getting found in the Cake Bear suit and ending up in Deep 1. It's really cool to see, even though I don't fully understand how any of it makes any sense at all. Now, of course, there are still plenty of other death minigames to talk about, so let's go ahead and get those out of the way. The first is called Missing Persons. In it, we play as a random security guard. Our task is to sneak around the pizzeria to gather information about the kids going missing. We talk to some dude named Colin and another guy named Kane and Anthony and also Peter again. There's a lot of shit going on. Just a lot of us asking questions about the missing kids. They also mentioned something about CCTV footage that we could take a look at for evidence. Eventually, there's a jump cut to a man named Mr. Jimenez with Peter. He's pissed off because his kid has been missing for 2 days, but in all honesty, I kind of call that a win. I hate kids. In the next minigame called Material Witness, we're tasked with getting the CCTV footage I mentioned earlier. As we make our way to the office, we can enter the top left side of the party room and see Shadow Freddy, which is pretty cool, I guess. Once we enter the office, we meet with Garvey. We talk to him about the missing kids, and Jeremy tells Garvey that he shouldn't hang around the back room since it's secluded and people might start suspecting him of the murder since he's the quiet type, which is very unfortunate since we all know Garvey is the one who did it. They mention how Fritz is currently the prime suspect, and that's really about it. This conversation drags on for so fucking long. I was going to get some actors to dub these minigames, but holy shit, they're so long and fucking boring. You can also pick up a key in this minigame. If you go to the office, but take a right before entering it and go into one of the party rooms, you can walk through the wall. Go down and all the way to the left and then all the way up, you will see a room with a key. We'll talk more about the keys later. The next minigame I want to talk about is called Cake Bear's Last Performance. It takes place in 1982. In it, we're around a few other people. One by the name of Alex and the other isn't named. They're talking about drinking and smoking, so you know these guys are cool. The unnamed character mentions a guy named Tom who also smokes outside, but when we go to check on him, we see something floating in the air. I have no idea what it is though. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Then the minigame ends. We can also get another key in this minigame. If we talk to the kid in the left room, then go right all the way to the wall, we can run into it until we glitch through it. Walk to the far right far enough and we find a rope with a key on it. Hooray! I love FNAF secrets. They're so cool and totally not the most annoying things of all time. The next minigame is called Corporate Ladder. We're tasked with going to Peter's office. This scene shows Trevor checking in around the building after Fritz's disappearance and the recent murders, while the company atmosphere is clearly falling apart. Kyle is trying to convince Colin that Natalie wasn't simply lost, but taken. Colin dismisses him, but Trevor steps in to remove Kyle, but Kyle storms off on his own. This is confusing, guys. I'm sorry. Trevor then talks talks with Garvey and John. Garvey's wearing shades like Fritz, saying it might lighten the mood since the kids miss Fritz so much. The conversation makes it clear Fritz was beloved, especially by the children. Garvey also mentions Peter has him working a double shift. Trevor then goes to Peter's office. Peter is on the phone with Mrs. Smith about someone missing and seems overwhelmed, frustrated, and defensive. After he hangs up, he snaps at Trevor, then apologizes. Peter admits he's struggling with the fallout of a quintuple homicide, the investigation, his family, and John's situation. Trevor confronts him, then brings up employee concerns about the animatronics being hostile. Peter initially dismisses it, blaming unreliable employees like Jeremy and Kane, but Trevor insists something feels wrong, especially with the tense police presence and the animatronics staring at everyone. Peter agrees to inspect them the next day, assuming it is just an optics or movement bug. Holy shit, that minigame was long as fuck. All of these minigames are. If you were to play all of the death minigames in order and actually read all of the text, it would probably take you a solid 45 minutes to get through all of it. It's actually some of the most lore-heavy shit I've ever sat through in my life, and it felt like a fucking chore. I can't even lie. I'm not having fun writing this part at all. The next minigame is called Give Gifts of Light, and holy shit, this is the longest one yet. I want to die. The puppet gives the murdered children masks and gifts, which leads to them becoming the boa, or the box of abominations. After that, Peter checks in with Jeremy about the toy animatronics. Jeremy is uneasy around one of them and asks why they don't just move it to the back, but Peter refuses because of how much money was spent on it and because investors are already putting pressure on him. Peter says the main three animatronics' eyes are malfunctioning, so he needs to get parts from the older animatronics. Peter, Trevor, and Kane head into parts and service. Kane brings up suspicion that Colin may have known more than they thought, but Peter insists Colin is likely guilty because he stole money and disappeared. Peter even says that if Colin is blamed, it might be good for them because the cops could leave. Once they enter the back room, they notice a disgusting smell. Kane says it smells like bleach and rotten pennies, not normal wastewater. While searching the old animatronic heads for ocular motors, Kane discovers blood on one of the suits, then realizes there's a body inside. Trevor finds another body too, making it clear the missing children are hidden inside of the old animatronics. Kane immediately wants to call the cops, but Peter refuses, realizing that if the public finds out, the company and their careers are finished. He pressures Kane by pointing out that Kane was responsible for maintenance checks and could be blamed for failing to find the bodies sooner. Trevor then offers a darker solution. He knows a guy who can make the problem go away. The scene ends with Peter deciding to cover everything up. Kane is terrified and wants no part in it, but Trevor tells him all he has to do is walk away and stay silent. Kane agrees in exchange for his tuition being paid and his name being kept out of it. Peter agrees as long as Kane makes sure Anthony and Jeremy never find out. Trevor then warns him he saw nothing, he heard nothing, and knows nothing. And there's only one minigame left to talk about called Loose Ends. Who gives a fuck about what the people are saying? The cool part is that Jeremy gets the Bite of 87 special. Hooray! I'm finally done talking about these fucking minigames. There's still one more thing I want to mention, however, and that is the diary. After completing night 5 for the first time, we unlock it. It's incredibly long, but I guess I'll actually read this one to you. Editor, put a mix of Subway Surfers, GTA cars falling down shit, and some other bullshit that's fun to watch in a compilation on the side of the screen while I read this.
Yes, I may answer if you tap the glass. School will be missed, and its many exploits or stunts. From plenty of people other than myself, having a hand in so many things, call it calculated immaturity, has let me write about it here. So I'm leaving high school with many stories, and I see this as important. I don't remember any cases where staff actually let themselves believe I had done what I'd done, despite being clearly told, so it must be true that I'm naturally sweet, believable, and appealing. I'd hope for this not to change. Try hard, I don't know if the competition, or I'd say maybe superiority complex of school can really exist as well in the following life. This is okay. Of course, F have been ready for a long time to move ahead from this and do worthwhile things. Brandon and I are still happily friends. He's the type to be friends with almost anyone, of course. With so many large meetings, even parties, at his house I found often attended with Greg, Patricia, Anderson, and the likes. So, of course, we will all meet for graduation. June 1st, 1955. Yes, I may answer if you tap the glass. I have delayed the writing of the note for some time due to all my time spent with a certain young man, possibly described as a lonely, pathetic, bumbling, wannabe greaseball, desperately failing maturity, never quite let into the gatherings, but watching prom afar.
usually watching me. He's 16, 2 years younger than me. He's only around because he's Brandon's younger brother, Alex White. I think there is a spark of genius in this young man that I would do good to blossom with, though. If anything, I would even say this is obvious to me. Just because someone is different from how they naturally appear doesn't mean they're intentionally lying. Everyone does it. It's normal. Follow me. I'm a friendly rabbit. June 1st, 1955. Mex drowns. There is truth to it. I'm trying to gauge and measure. There's also the fact that engineering is ridiculous and doesn't make sense. I'm half joking, of course, although I do obviously question physics, nature. So is he literally spraying himself with maturity? What brilliant symbolism. But no, seriously, it was all that they had for some reason. This is oddly hyper-specific, but he's like the type of person that wouldn't go through the effort or pain or severing their arm to save a child. But you know, they sure feel bad about it for the rest of their life, and overcompensate by sculpting hundreds of fake arms. Actually, well, I guess we wouldn't know, unless somehow that scenario really did play out. Last night we were sitting by the creek. I wanted to relax after I attended the ceremony. I was lost in thought. Who was left? He realized a deep sadness was forming in his eyes, so he moved his head completely to the right, causing the back of his head to face me. He tries to hide his weakness from me. From all women. From anyone. But I haven't seen it. And I remember his face. I study his sadness from the traces, and I look past his skull. Luna 17th. 193 question mark. Come asylum. Unbelievable. I must state this in here right now. I will never stand for this. I know that people who'd ever talk about themselves or question anything would tell me my disconnected world vein, my disconnect from humanity, stems from a discontent for my own life, a mental condition that impedes me from connecting to people, a simple sickness or defect, a fault. Sam above deep or nuanced human connection because I have been past humanity. I cannot, because if I existed in places these other people have never even dreamed of. I was born a higher being and I will give everything to myself. I know people would say this to me because I've seen it on my own, as I have seen everything. My mind is not human. Oh, was born in a human body. I can exist under this facade for as long as I swant. It is control. It is not hard to smile, no feelings. Feelings are an idea that can be bent at will if you are not content to mindlessly lie to yourself. If I want not to love someone, I will not love them. Oh me. There is no reason it can't be this simple. I will not let anyone lie to me. I will wall in and take everything. I will not waste effort of writing about the incident that happened earlier today that lead me to record this sentiment. Damn Alex. He knows not what he does. He understands not what he says. He has always been a lost soul. They have no obligation to save him. He is unsavable. He will sink into his depression unconvertibly. He will always appreciate that S picked him up and showered him in my influence. Even if there. November 13th, 1963. Come asylum. A day that he may not admit. Think my he, so hell is too close hilarity. He has never been shoved away and forgotten like he acts like he has. I'm not going to reach out to those quacks and charlatans. This notebook is my institution. It is the only place with order where all the words are set in a place for a reason. The only place with true reason. Would they really be willing to lock away someone as pertly, softly spoken, well-spoken as me? Yes, of course. They would love it. Shut me in a room and leave a little peephole in the wall so they could watch the grime build up in the room and let it infect and toil within me and watch my beauty break into pieces, watch all of me fall apart and they'd savor it. My mother warning me of issues of mental commitment when I was young is the last thing she has ever done for me. I've written this bit later. Late tonight, I found Alex sitting at the television watching an investigative report called Suffer the Little Children on NBC. I don't write about it because there's nothing to say that my mom hadn't told me back then, but I've still been watching Ticket to Foilies this year. I was trying to hide from Alex how much I was studying his face, and thankfully he was entranced and not thinking of me in those moments. There was a lot you could gauge from his face during that time. The secondhand guilt and parental pain is there, yes, but he definitely does not care about those children. He's an apathetic person, especially when it comes to outside situations. November 23rd, 1963. But you know he is thinking of John. He always thinks of John. John is his own. Still, I cannot imagine Alex will have money for John's 5th birthday tomorrow. I obviously know I won't. And holy fucking shit, that's it. That was confusing. It was written exactly how I said it. It's so fucked up. I think I'm done. I think this is officially everything Crawl Space has to offer. Oh my god, this was a crazy long ride, and this took such a long time to research and write, record, and edit. I want to thank Triz, the guy who's been helping me do research for the past 3 videos. I couldn't have done this without him as fast as I did. Thank you to my editor Al, because this video is a fucking mess, and he made it somewhat comprehensible. Overall, Crawlspace is an amazing retelling of the Dormitibus story, minus all the disgusting shit that was in the original. As I said, this is the first game in a 3-part series, so you already know I'll be covering the others when they come out. I think this game is really fucking hard, but it is still super cool at the same time, and I would recommend you at least give it a try. Oh yeah, and by the way, it's currently 9:54 p.m. as I'm writing this, so this has been about the last 4 hours of my life in this fucking Google Doc. What makes a horror game truly scary? Is it jump scares, atmosphere, build up? Well, of course, all of these things together and more is what builds up a horror game to be something amazing. But I think if I had to choose one word to answer the question, what makes a horror game truly scary, my answer would be realism. In order for your game to be truly scary, I feel like the player has to be able to connect with your game on a personal level. And what better way to make that happen than to make the environment around them feel real? The game we'll be talking about today, I feel, pulled this off almost perfectly. A Five Nights at Freddy's fan game that was able to capture the real feel of an office, an environment, and realistic means of self-defense in a situation that seems so dire you'd think you'd never be able to make it out to tell the tale. The game we'll be covering today is Freddy's Reanimated, the most realistic FNAF game ever made. Reanimated does not begin like most FNAF games tend to. This game opens to a dark void. We're told that when we die, we will be brought back to this void and that we won't be remembered. However, if we are to be remembered, what is the name we'd like etched into our headstone? And it's here where we can actually choose a name for our character. Afterwards, we're booted into the menu where we can begin the game. As the game begins, we're given a pretty eerie opening cinematic, something pretty uncommon with Five Nights at Freddy's games. It serves to show how we found the job online on a listing site to work as a security guard for 5 days in an abandoned pizzeria. Fantastic! I know myself personally would never accept a job that I know for a fact won't even last a week, but hey, different strokes for different folks, I suppose. With that, we're thrown into the first night where I can talk about hands down one of my favorite parts about this game. Loading into the office, we're hit with something crazy. This game looks real. The office looks like an actual office, with objects placed around that actually look like they should be there, not just a random assortment of items like we typically see in FNAF games. And the sound design is amazing. This game looks real, it sounds real, and I think that's one of the big reasons why people love this game so much. It tries to feel real. Watch for when he's closest. He can be tricked easily. What the fuck does that mean, bro? Holy shit. Oh my god. What the fuck? This looks sick. Of course, like most FNAF games tend to do, we have a phone call on each night to listen to. Instead of the usual where the phone guy at least sounds somewhat like they know what they're doing, the phone guy in Reanimated sounds baked out of his fucking mind.
Speaking of which, the only reason we have a security guard job right now is because the place is being demolished soon. So we don't want any funny business going on at night.
He tells us the basics of our camera. Who cares? That's my job. What he does say that's actually of note is that the building we're in has been abandoned for over a decade. And the only reason we're watching over it now is because the building is about to be demolished. And for some reason, they're concerned about funny business going on because of that. I have no idea what funny business is supposed to mean. My first guess was people breaking in to steal something, but then I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. People could have been stealing from this place for the last 10 plus years. Why would they all of a sudden decide they needed to do this now? Maybe it means graffiti, but the place is being demolished, so who cares? This is such a weird thing to latch onto, but I just feel like it's strange to mention this now. And it does actually bring up a good question. Why would you hire someone to guard a building that won't exist in 5 days? But you never hired a guard for the past 10 years that it was abandoned. It almost makes you wonder if they were expecting something to happen. And maybe that's why they're demolishing it. Before I get into any of the characters, let's talk about the controls of this game and the 3 tools at our disposal. You can only look in 2 directions in this game, at your computer and at your door and window. Something super interesting about this door is that it is actually just a door, which is pretty scary in a game like this where your doors are mainly known as your only means of defense. You can pull the blinds of your window down if you want to, and when I first found that out, I was reasonably concerned as to why. I see this right here, and I know this game's about to be fucked. I know this game is about to be so fucked, dude. It's just a normal fucking door. Bro, these motherfuckers gonna open the shit out of that thing. And we'll get into why in just a minute. But first, I really want to talk about the cameras and why they serve to be one of the most difficult things to deal with in this entire game. Upon looking at the cameras, you'll realize there's no typical camera map and buttons. Instead, there's just arrows at the bottom of the cameras that you can click to move from one camera to the next fairly slowly. This is brilliant in two ways. With the realism approach that this game is taking, looking at the surroundings, we can tell that this game takes place a pretty long time ago in 2013. We can tell this because of the confirm window at the beginning of the game being Windows 7 and the fact that the game tells us. But I just wanted to seem cool by pointing out that I knew what the Windows 7 UI was. Shut up. And yes, 2013 was a long time ago. I know for some of you it may not feel like it, but it was 12 years ago. That's older than some of my audience who, let's be honest, really shouldn't be watching my videos. Mom and dad, monitor your kids, fuckhead. Knowing this and knowing that the game is aiming to be realistic, opting to use a slow, outdated system like this is genius. Even if, yes, I think it's AIDS and very annoying. However, once we start talking about the way this game plays, I'll bring up why I think the way these cameras are set up is needed. Anyways, on to the reason why I think this is as annoying as it is. Mainly because it's not consistent in one way that I would expect it to be. There are 9 cameras in total to surf through. When you reach camera 9, if you press the forward arrow again, you will be sent back to camera 1. That makes sense. So, what do you think happens if you press the back arrow while on camera 1? If you said you go back to camera 9, you would be completely wrong because the back arrow doesn't even fucking exist on camera 1. Why is this the case? I have no idea. If it was consistent either way, this wouldn't bother me, but you can cycle in one direction and not the other. And yes, this is noticeable and it does matter. Now we can finally talk about the first threat this game throws at you. I'm sure you could have guessed who it is. That's right, it's Chica. I lied, it's Bonnie. Of course it's Bonnie. Surprisingly, each character in this game attacks you in a unique way. Even though we only have 3 tools, this game somehow manages to make each character vastly different from one another, and I think that's amazing. Bonnie's main goal is to sneak into your office. He will move around the cameras until he gets to your door. And when he gets to your door, be ready. Close that motherfucker! Oh my god. Dude, literally fuck that. Literally fuck that. The moment I saw this, I knew that this was getting a Dexter White video. And even the people in my comments over on my second channel, Dexter Black, knew that this game was getting a White video. I actually had another video lined up for this week, and I've chosen to postpone it so that I could talk about this game first, since I love it so much. It's moments like these that FNAF games need. Once Bonnie is at your window, all you have to do is hold down your blinds until you hear his big fat feet galloping away. Not an overtly difficult character to deal with, but really paves the way for what the rest of this game has to offer. Luckily for us, there's a post-night minigame section after each night that we get to talk about. But hold up, Dexter. Don't you usually hate post-night minigames? Yeah, typically I do. However, this game's post-night minigames don't make me want to shove a porcupine in my asshole backwards. There's no repetitive 8-bit minigames, and again, what we're doing in these minigames still feels realistic. After completing the night, we get another call from the phone guy. He asks us before we head home to go into the storage room and find an old computer, which we can use to upload some old pictures and footage of the building to the cloud. He says he wants to upload some of the interesting stuff to his personal blog, which I'm sure violates some sort of contract, but who am I to care? I break the law all the time. For example, if I was in the UK, I'd probably be arrested on the spot because of the language I choose to use. Anyways, something I think is cool is that we actually get to walk into the back room. We don't just miraculously get placed there. This will become important later, by the way. After walking into the storage room, we can access the computer and start uploading files to the cloud. You'll notice that you can turn to the exit of the room. For now, it's unknown why. After waiting for ages for the upload to finish, we walk out of the storage room and finish out our shift, moving on to night 2. On night 2, we get another call from the phone guy, where we find out that our player is actually trying to do something about the fact that the characters are moving. Apparently, we sent an email to the phone guy explaining that we saw Bonnie moving. We called him the creepy rabbit, which seemed to frustrate the phone guy a little bit, to the point he corrected us on his name.
Oh yeah, and that creepy rabbit you were talking about, he has a name. It's Bonnie.
Sure, this could have just been playful, but I get the funny feeling it's not. The threat introduced on this night is Chica, arguably the least threatening character in this entire game. Chica will randomly wander around your cameras, and she has the chance to charge at your door from 2 of those cameras. Except the difference with Chica approaching your door is that closing the blinds will not stop her. She can attack on cameras 2 and camera 4. You can tell when she's going to attack based on the position she's standing in. On camera 2, she'll be very close to the camera, and in camera 4, she'll be on the very left side of the camera. When she is in either of these 2 positions, you will need to use the flash button on your cameras to flash said camera and scare her away. You may be wondering why there's a flash on these cameras. That's not very realistic, and Dexter, you told me this whole game was realistic. And now hear me out. Usually I'd agree with you, but I want you to take that concern like a boomerang and launch it as far away from you as possible. Night 2's post-night minigame has us go back to the computer in the storage room to fiddle with the power system. Now this you can complain about because I have no idea what the hell that is supposed to mean. And actually doing the task doesn't really answer anything either. We are shown a series of sliders that we have to quite literally fiddle with. Apparently doing so will reset the power. How do you tell you've put the sliders in the correct spot? Well, you just have to do trial and error. Move one slider a single place, press reset, and if it turns red, change it again. This is very monotonous. If only there was something else on this night to cure my boredom. I don't want to look back. What did I tell you? It's moments like these that really make these FNAF games stand out. To any future FNAF devs, do cool shit. Your game does not have to be stupidly hard to be memorable. It just has to do cool things. And this is some of the coolest shit I've ever seen. While looking at the computer, Bonnie will slowly try to creep closer and closer to you. You will have to look back at him lest he shoot his Jeep juice all over your spine. You can actually watch him walk backwards while you look at him, almost like he knows you've noticed he's moved, and is attempting to readjust himself so you go back to looking away. What the fuck? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my fucking god! Did you see that shit? Motherfucker just crip walked back, he moonwalked. It's honestly some of the creepiest shit I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game, and I love it. After completing this minigame and turning towards the door, you'll realize that Bonnie has gone away. Obviously getting bored of you because you're boring. So all we have to do now is walk out of the building. You want me to walk out that motherfucking door? You honestly want me to walk out that fucking door? I mean, I'll do it, but fuck. Oh my fucking god! This game is fucking awesome, by the way. But now it's time to move on to night 3. On night 3, the phone guy says he got another email from us because we told him that Chica was now moving too. He said that in case anyone else starts moving, we should use the flash, because they're probably not used to bright lights. Again, I find this weird coming from him. And come to think of it, why would any of the animatronics from any FNAF game be sensitive to light? They're always on stage where bright lights are beaming on them almost constantly. So I just find it odd how much the phone guy seems to want us to do this. He ends off the call by stating he wanted to tell us a story, but he's out of time. Maybe we'll hear that story another day. For now, let me tell you the story of Sparky the dog. You remember, the hoax character that was said to be in Five Nights at Freddy's 1 way back in the day? Yeah, Yeah, for some reason he's in this game, and he's the threat introduced on night 3. His mechanics are simple, but really start to show how annoying this camera system is going to become. Occasionally, Sparky will bark. When he does, he will be teleported to a random camera. You will have to find which camera he's on and flash him. Am I a huge fan of this mechanic? No, not at all. And I'm really not a fan when I have to meticulously scrape through each camera one by one. Overall, so far, it's not going to be all too bad. Keep your eyes on Chica, find Sparky every once in a while, and occasionally hold the blinds for Bonnie. Simple sugar, not so bad. But trust me, it'll get bad pretty damn fast. After completing the shift, we get another call from the phone guy. He tells us the cameras have been acting strange and that we should use the computer in the storage room to reset them. He also curiously mentions that he has remote access to the camera system. So that brings up the question, why the fuck are we even here? If someone else is able to watch the cameras in the safety of their own home, where there aren't a bunch of murder robots trying to butt fuck them, who cares? Let's just finish our shift and head to the storage room.
I'll see you on the flip side.
I'll see you in the grave, asshole. So let me tell you a little something. Oh my fucking God! I love this game. I don't know if that was obvious or not. Entering the storage room is when we enter by far the most difficult minigame section in this entire game. I'm not kidding. We're tasked with literally just holding a button down on the PC. Once it charges all the way, we'll reset a camera and move on to the next one. However, when you let go, the bar will very quickly decrease. That may not sound so bad. It would only be bad if we had a certain purple distraction trying to blow our backs out now, wouldn't it? What the fuck? What? Bro, he's fast as shit. Bonnie is the sole reason why this minigame is so AIDS. Bonnie, for some reason, thought that today was the day he was going to take the Rock Lee ankle weights off and show us his true speed. Bonnie is so astronomically fast during this minigame, it's not even funny. 3, 2, 3. Oh my motherfucking God. Oh my fucking God. Oh my fucking God. Can I break his knees? You have maybe 2 seconds of time to look at the screen before he kills you, so you have to be fast. And what adds to the difficulty of this night, the hitbox of the progress bar you have to click and hold. Swiping your mouse back and forth to check on Bonnie, then moving back to the computer is insanity. And when you come back, you have to hold the position of your mouse on this tiny little progress bar and continue to hold. But you can only hold for maybe 1 second before you have to turn back around to Bonnie and wait for him to walk all the way back to the door. And keep in mind, the progress bar is decreasing every time you look away, so you're really just fucked. And once you complete a camera is when you notice you have to fix 3 more. And if you ever die to Bonnie, go back into them all over again. Fuck you. This minigame took me around 30 minutes to finally complete. It's unironically the second hardest canonical challenge in this game, and I would love to have to never do it again. Oh, but one more interesting detail about this minigame. The final camera you fix briefly shows Foxy in the camera. Oh boy, I hope that's not foreshadowing or something. After completing that hell, we don't have to almost get touched by any robots on our way out and are free to move on to night 4. The phone guy calls us and fucking rambles about some bullshit I don't care about. He says that there was an ancient civilization that archaeologists found, and those researchers were later haunted by handprints of the ancient civilization. Again, I really don't give a fuck. This is purely symbolic for the story of the game, which I'll talk about later. But this was the story he was itching to tell us. I would rather itch my balls than hear him talk about that again. The threat introduced on this night is Foxy. Spoiler alert, the camera was foreshadowing something. Foxy acts exactly how you think Foxy would act. You have to look at him to stall him, and if you don't, he'll run to your office. But as I'm sure you could have guessed, he too doesn't care about your door. Watching him will push him back, so just make sure you're doing that. Something of note is how Foxy breaks the cycle you've been really trying to build up throughout the game, forcing you to develop a new one. Up until this point, watching Chica has probably been your main focus, but now with a character that demands even more attention, I'm sure you could figure out why Foxy will put a big wrench into your plans. Now you have to find a way to constantly watch Foxy and Chica, and lucky us, Foxy is on camera 6, several cameras away from Chica's attack cameras. This game knows what it's doing. Sure, it's frustrating, but it's also genius. In this post-night minigame, we're told we have to fix a ventilation problem. Phone guy tells us it's just turning a few knobs. The ventilation room is in a door right off of the storage room, so the storage room is where we go.
I don't see anyone yet.
Hi, Bonnie. Were you expecting me to go there? Were you expecting to cut me off? Sorry, asshole. Not gonna happen. Is that not horrifying? Bonnie is standing right next to the computer we've been going to every night. He's starting to remember our patterns, getting to the computer before we can in hopes that he could jump us. But lucky for us, the computer is not where we need to go this time. Entering into the ventilation room, we have 6 knobs in front of us and 2 large vents to our left and right. Pretty reminiscent of the office from Pizzeria Simulator. I wonder if anything is going to come through those vents to try and kill us. Silly little viewer. Of course there is. This minigame's threat is Foxy. Throughout the minigame, Foxy will make quiet sound cues in whichever vent he's about to attack from. When you hear him, all you have to do is turn to stare at him until he goes away. Meanwhile, you have to painfully slowly turn these 6 knobs, which will take a very long time, because as you get closer to having them all finish, it seems that Foxy will attack you more and more frequently. After completing this task, we can leave with no other funny business taking place. Finally, we're left with one last night. One last thing standing in our way, and this game holds no punches in introducing it. Before you is something long forgotten. Something that was once loved and cherished, but now it lies broken. It is left abandoned. You know what becomes of something long forgotten. It dies a second death. It grows cold. It is unmoving. But what if some things don't wish to be forgotten? Do you know what happens when something refuses to be forgotten? It becomes angry. Anger is eternal. Anger grows, it festers, it burns, it writhes, and then it finally happens. It is given new life. It returns to us. It haunts us. However, it doesn't return as it once was. It returns as something else, something unrecognizable. Through its anger, it is reanimated. And with that, we're given one final message. The flash slows him down. Godspeed. When I first read that message, it gave me chills for some reason. It's like just by reading that, I knew what I was about to experience. Absolute agony. We get another call from the phone guy. He explains his reasoning for why he thinks the robots are alive. He thinks they're angry that they've been forgotten about and left abandoned for years, and he couldn't be more right. Night 5 introduces Freddy. Holy fucking shit, Freddy. Freddy is by far the most dangerous character in this entire game. When Freddy moves forward, he will never move backwards. And once he gets to your office, it's over for you. Yo, get the fuck away from that fucking door! You get the fuck away from that door! What? Oh, fuck, dude. Freddy is a dick. Raps. How do you stall Freddy? By using the flash, of course. When you flash Freddy, he will cover his eyes. Something interesting to note is that Freddy is the only character to be animated on the cameras. Such a small detail, but a detail I think is really cool. If you really want to make sure Freddy doesn't move, you'll have to time his intervals, since they don't vary, and make sure you're onto his camera and flash him at quite literally every single opportunity. You don't have much time to waste, as Freddy is fast. Really fucking fast. I don't quite have the vocabulary necessary to describe how intense this night really is. And if you get bad Sparky spawns like I often did, you could easily spend hours on this night. I was lucky enough to only have it take me a single hour. But if you manage to control your nerves long enough to complete this night, We will have one final minigame to talk about. After completion, we get one final call from the phone guy. He very ominously tells us to enter the dining room. He says he wants to show us something. Upon entering the dining room, we're greeted by all 5 animatronics staring back at us. The camera to the dining room flashes, and we hear the phone guy, named Ralph, explain that the reason it flashes is so that you can take a screenshot of the camera. Ow! Oh! Fuck! See? That's why I told you to make it a boomerang. Ralph then used that image to post on his blog. He's been using these camera images for his blog all week, and we were the bait. One last goodbye is said, and the restaurant goes quiet. The gameplay of Freddy's Reanimated is incredible. There's no doubting that. This game, of course, has a custom night with 3 additional unlockable characters, the first of which being Bon Bon, who's actually a reference to the game Freddy's Web Adventure. Pretty cool. Occasionally, he will appear on your cameras. If you don't click him fast enough, he will disable all of them for the remainder of the night. The next character you can unlock is called the Hawk. He acts as a Phantom Chica-like character. He will periodically appear on the cameras, blocking the view, and if you don't turn away from him, he will kill you. Pretty simple, but in a game where the cameras are super important, this guy can be a big pain in the ass. Finally, the last character you can unlock is Sienna, by far the most cancerous of the Custom Night 3. She will occasionally block the clock next to your door, which somehow prevents time from passing. This is a Custom Night character that can drop the realism at this point. All you have to do is click her nose and she will go away and the time will continue to pass. Altogether, completing a custom night with these 3 additional characters is a torture I would never want to put myself through. But shout out to Dark Ryun, who was able to pull it off, and whose footage you're seeing right now. I should mention that the custom night does have a secret ending, but I'll bring it up when I talk about the story of this game, which, you know, we'll do right now. The story of Freddy's Reanimated is honestly one of the most surprisingly thoughtful pieces of writing I've ever seen in a FNAF fan game. It's not about murder or purple men or endless timelines that make my brain feel like fucking mashed potatoes. It's about being forgotten, and about what happens when something that used to bring people joy is left to rot and fade away. The entire game is built on this theme: nostalgia, decay, and the quiet horror of being erased from memory. Freddy's Reanimated takes place inside Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place, a restaurant that's already dead by the time we get there. It used to be loved. Kids laughed, parents smiled, the animatronics performed, and everything was fine, until it wasn't. Over time, the crowd stopped coming, the lights dimmed, the laughter stopped. The building was abandoned and left to gather dust for over a decade. No massacres, no missing children, just nothing. The kind of death most things really suffer. When the game starts, we're told the place is finally being demolished, and Ralph, the manager, hires a night guard to keep an eye on the place for the last few days. That's us. But before us, there was another guard, Mike Schmidt. Yeah, that Mike Schmidt. He worked one night, just one, and didn't make it out. In the demo of this game, we actually see what happened. Mike survives until 6 a.m. The power cuts, and Freddy himself storms into the office and literally bites his head off. No mystery, no cover-up. It's brutal, it's direct, and it sets the tone for everything that follows. When Ralph brings us in months later, he acts like none of that ever happened. He's casual, a little too calm, and gives us these half-baked instructions that sound like he's either high out of his mind or hiding something. He keeps asking us to do these little tasks: fix the power, upload old files, check the cameras, all while brushing off the fact that the animatronics are moving. Every night, our character emails Ralph describing what they saw, and every night Ralph dances around the truth. He never says, "You're wrong," but he never says, "You're right" either. It's like he knows what's going on, but refuses to say it out loud. Then, finally, on the last night, Ralph tells us a story. the story he's been dying to share. He says that back in the 1940s, archaeologists discovered a cave covered in human handprints. The people who found it were haunted by those same handprints for the rest of their lives. Like the dead were reaching out just to remind them they were still there. And Ralph thinks the same thing is happening to Freddy's. He believes the animatronics are moving because they refuse to be forgotten. That after sitting abandoned for over a decade, their anger, this pure, desperate rage, literally reanimated them. Not out of vengeance, not because of possession, but because of memory. Because they were once loved and then left behind. It's such a fascinating take. The idea that these animatronics aren't evil, they're afraid of fading away. It's one of the first FNAF fan games I've seen that makes you feel sorry for the monsters chasing you. They're not killing you because they want to, they're killing you because they don't want to disappear. After you survive the final night, Ralph asks you to head into the dining room. He says he wants to show you something. When you enter, all 5 animatronics are standing there, waiting for you. It's one of the eeriest visuals in the entire game. Completely still, completely silent. Ralph activates the camera flash, and the screen freezes in a burst of light. Then he says,
I finally figured out what the flash button does. It lights up the room so that you can take a screenshot of the camera you're looking at. I finally have more recent images for my blog.
And that's when it hits you. The whole time, we weren't protecting the building, we were the bait. Ralph was using us to get the footage and screenshots he wanted for his personal blog, to turn the remains of this haunted restaurant into online content, the same way we, as players, chase nostalgia. Ralph chases it too. He's obsessed with documenting something that's supposed to be gone. After everything, the building is demolished. Ralph's posts about it online, sparking renewed interest in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. People remember it again. The animatronics, those same restless spirits that didn't want to be forgotten, finally get what they wanted. They are remembered. And then they rest. The player gets their paycheck. The story ends not with a scream, but with silence. It's such a powerful way to close things out. Freddy's Reanimated isn't about surviving animatronics. It's about the fear of being erased. It's about what happens when the world moves on and leaves you behind. Even the custom night ending reflects that idea. Mike Schmidt's death is written off as a bear attack. Just a tiny headline, nothing more. And Freddy Fazbear himself, lying in the rubble, surrounded by everything that used to be alive, now just forgotten scraps of metal. For a game that's meant to be realistic, it's ironic that the story is one of the most human I've ever seen in this genre. Freddy's Reanimated isn't just the most realistic FNAF game ever made, it's one of the most real stories the community has ever told. Would you like to hear one last interesting piece of information I have to share? There is a secret in this game up until this point. As far as I'm aware, nobody has ever found it, and I can guarantee you've never seen it before. A secret so rare that the chances of finding it exceed luck that no human has ever had. And I want to thank City, the author of the FNAF fan game wiki, for providing me with this information and allowing me to share it with you guys. We know that Michael got bitten and killed by Freddy, but did you know you can actually see Michael's corpse inside of the game? You just have to be incredibly lucky. To start, you must have already beaten the main game. No custom night completion is necessary. Then you have to restart the game from night 1. Before completing night 3, you will have to die at least 5 times. Then, upon beating night 3, when entering the hallway, there's a 1 in 10,000 chance to see the corpse. Slight gore warning, by the way. This is probably the most realistic looking gore I've ever seen in a FNAF game. If you can pull all of that off and get more lucky than any human on Earth, this is what you will see in the hallway. Truly some of the scariest shit I've ever seen. But there you have it. That's everything as far as I'm aware that Freddy's Reanimated has to offer. Juniors is the most unique FNAF fan game I've ever played, and I have played a lot of them. Really, I've quite literally built my entire career around playing FNAF games, and Juniors is 100% the most fun I've ever had playing any FNAF game ever designed. This video is here to go over everything I love about the game and the few things that I hate, because truly, I do not believe there is currently any FNAF fan game that does the formula better than Juniors. So let's waste no more time on the intro that nobody cares about and get into the best FNAF fan game ever made. Before we begin talking about Juniors, I want to tell a bit of a story, or I guess more of a fun fact. I actually wanted to avoid playing and reviewing Juniors for the longest time. I've been getting suggestions for it since my first ever FNAF video over a year ago, and I've always decided that I didn't want to touch it. Why? Because I used to have this really cringy way of thinking. If something is popular, it must be overrated type of mentality. After finally sitting down and playing through Juniors, seeing it completely blind for my first time ever, I will never in my life think like that ever again. This game truly has made me more passionate to create content more than any other game ever has. Set your expectations as high as you want, and I guarantee Juniors will still blow them out of the water. We play as an unnamed paranormal investigator. We're assigned with exploring the supernatural presence of the restaurant Juniors. As I'm sure you may have guessed, yes, this is the same Juniors that can be seen in the Midnight Motorist minigame from Pizzeria Simulator. We wake up in a place called the Barrens, which seems to be a limbo between life and death. Looking up, we can see what I assume to be our own brain, and we soon meet a character named Paul Bear. Throughout this game, we don't learn much about Paul Bear, but he is the only friend we have throughout the game. Paul Bear explains that there is an evil presence inside of the Juniors establishment, only ever referring to it as the Ghost. Eventually, we strike a deal with Paul Bear. He agrees to help us with our investigation of Juniors, and we agreed to help Paul Bear find freedom from the Ghost by defeating it in one way or another. With that, we head to bed and start our first night. Usually, the way I talk about nights in FNAF games is pretty basic. I bring up which threats are introduced, how to deal with them, and throw in a dick joke or something. However, Juniors does the entire FNAF formula so differently from any other FNAF game I've seen, so covering this is going to be a fun change of pace. To start, Juniors completely gets rid of the sit and survive style of gameplay that most other FNAF games have. The game still has the classic 6 nights, however, each night isn't completed once you've made it to an arbitrary time limit. Instead, similar to a game like Pizzeria Simulator, progression is based on finishing tasks. Except the key difference between the tasks in Pizzeria Simulator and the tasks in Juniors is that one of those games has super fun tasks that I look forward to doing, and the other game is fucking Pizzeria Simulator. But what exactly are the tasks in Juniors? I'm so glad you asked, because these tasks are the sole reason why this game is so amazing. Throughout the night, the ghost Paul Bear was telling us about will enter one of the animatronics at random. It's our job to watch the cameras for weird anomalies and figure out which animatronic is possessed. And each night, you will have to correctly identify where the ghost is more and more times. On night 1, you need to correctly identify the ghost 2 times, and with each subsequent night, that number goes up by 1. But before we really get into that, there's something else that this game does that I wasn't expecting. Typically in FNAF games, the animatronics will make their way to your office and try to attack you. This is actually not the case in Juniors. The animatronics will never come to your office. Well, at least not in the typical FNAF way, but I'll cover that in a minute. The tools at our disposal are pretty minimal. We have our cameras, control panel, and our repair room. Throughout the course of the night, if you check your control panel, you will be able to see the condition of each of the 6 animatronics. Yes, 6. You've got the main 4, with the addition of the marionette and balloon bitch, or as this game calls him, balloon baby. As the night progresses, the condition of each of these characters will decrease. If they ever go completely empty, they'll use your ass as sustenance and gobble it up. At any time, you can send one of the animatronics onto a conveyor belt that will bring the character to your repair room. Once inside the repair room, you can quickly fix them and send them back into the pizzeria. This will cause their condition to go back up to 100. However, you have to be careful, because if you send the possessed animatronic to your office, it's game over. Another thing to note is that you can't send more than one character to your repair room at a time. Moving on to the actual ghost hunting part of this game. As mentioned previously, there are 6 characters that the ghost can possess. Both at the start of the night and directly after identifying the possessed character, you will get a grace period where no animatronic is possessed. You should use that time to send the lowest conditioned animatronic to your office to be repaired. There are multiple different cues to tell you who the possessed animatronic is. It seems like throughout the nights, new clues are introduced. However, I cannot find a distinct list of what clues get introduced each night, so I'm going to be guessing based on my experience. If you know that I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below. There are 2 clues that are introduced on night 1. The first one is pretty easy: camera flickering. When an animatronic is possessed, they have a chance to cause the camera that they are currently on to start flickering. The cameras by default flicker their lights, so this is pretty subtle, but if you look closely at an actual flickering camera, you'll be able to tell that the ghost is on it, because between the flickering, the cameras will have a brief period where they go black. That sounds pretty easy, I hear you saying, and while yes, it is, this is another part of the game that I think is super cool. There aren't an insane amount of cameras to look through, and it's very common that multiple characters will be visible on a camera at the same time. So this brings up the possible problem. If the cameras are flickering on a camera, but multiple characters are present, how do we figure out which of the animatronics is actually the possessed one? This right here, this conflict that you have to figure out, is the main reason why I love this game so much. It's such a simple problem, but the way you go about solving it can be different depending on your playstyle. This is honestly the coolest mechanic I've ever seen out of any FNAF game, and I don't think it's ever going to be beat. So, what was my strategy? Let's start with the hypothetical that we'll use throughout this video. Let's say we're looking at a camera that has Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy present on it. The camera is flickering, so we know that either Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, or Foxy are the possessed animatronic. The first thing I would do is either send Balloon Bitch or the Marionette to the conveyor belt, since I know full well it can't be one of them. So I'd just pick whoever has lower condition. Then I would constantly keep my eye on all 4 animatronics on that camera until 1 or more of them left. Once they left, let's say for example Freddy and Chica leave, I would stay on the camera to see if the flickering persisted. If it did, then I'd know it can't be Freddy or Chica. Let's say Foxy left next and Bonnie stayed on the camera. If the lights stopped flickering, then I'd know for a fact it has to be Foxy. And if I really wanted to double check, I could find the camera where Foxy left to and see that the lights are still flickering. But as I've said, that is only 2 of the clues that are introduced on this night. What's the other? Handprints. I should mention that once the ghost possesses a character, only 1 of the clues will become present in that character until it is found. And from what I can tell, they never switch which clue they have until the ghost is found. Handprints are pretty simple. When a possessed character leaves a camera, they will leave a handprint behind on the lens of the camera. So let's go back to our hypothetical again. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy are all on 1 camera. Freddy and Chica leave, and after doing so, we spot a handprint on the lens. That means we now know that the ghost has to be in either Freddy or Chica. So we can send either Foxy, Bonnie, the Marionette, or Balloon Bitch to the conveyor belt, and all that's left is to watch Freddy or Chica. Whoever we choose, we wait for them to leave a camera. If Chica leaves and a handprint isn't seen, that means the possessed character has to be Freddy. And with that, night 1 is in the bag. After the night, we head back to the Barrens and talk to Paul Bear again. He explains that he himself chooses to stay in the Barrens because the ghost won't go there. Pussy-ass ghost Paul Bear is afraid of another ghost. Don't question it. It's kind of like those people who are afraid of other people. What do we call those things? Oh, yeah, moderators. Anyways, night 2 time. Night 2 doesn't appear to add any new clues. However, I will take this time to talk about how Paul Bear can aid in our investigations throughout the night. If at any point you're confused on who the ghost may be hiding in, once per night you can go to the control panel and actually ask Paul Bear who he thinks it is. He'll be able to narrow it down to 2 characters. Do you need this to beat the nights? No. but I do think it's kind of neat that it's available if you're struggling. I only ever used it once throughout my playthrough on accident because I didn't know that clicking on this would actually cause him to give me a hint. Also, if you want to watch my full playthrough, you can do so on my second channel, Dexter Black. It's also on this night where I want to bring up the Marionette and Balloon Bitch. Since you can never actually see either of them on the cameras, you may be wondering how you're supposed to be able to tell if they are possessed. I'll talk about the Marionette later, so for now I'll talk about Balloon Bitch. His mechanic is actually incredibly simple, and I honestly think it's one of the weakest mechanics in the entire game. All you have to do to check if Balloon Bitch is possessed is look at your control panel. If his condition number is freaking the fuck out, he's possessed. If it's not, he's not. That's it. Again, I don't really think that this has a good reason for existing. Maybe the dev just wanted a 6th character so that there would be 3 on each side on the control panel, but I feel like it would have been much more interesting if you just allowed Balloon Bitch to be seen on the camera like the main 4. He could have been made to be a more challenging character. Since he's smaller than everyone else, having him hide in the cameras and be immune to the motion sensor could have been a super interesting challenge. But let me know what you guys think about Balloon Bitch in the comments. After completing night 2, we find a VHS tape. Watching it shows a claymation of Freddy carrying an animatronic limb up to a door. The door has a note on it that says, "Beware the mangle." Looking up, Freddy appears to see said mangle looming down on him, and the cutscene comes to a close. Heading back to the Barrens, we ask Paul Bear about what we saw on the tape. He says he believes that the ghost is trying to build itself a body in the form of the mangle, and that it's possessing the other characters to bring the parts to it. Appearing that we're now on a timer, we know that we have to do something, so we head to sleep and move on to night 3. Night 3 introduces one new clue that the characters can use: camera movement. This one is pretty simple. However, I should start by explaining how the cameras work a little bit more. Typically in FNAF games, the camera will slowly pan back and forth as you look at them. In Juniors, you have to manually move the cameras to see the full picture using WASD. The camera movement clue does exactly what you'd think. If you're moving the cameras, the ghost can cause it to jerk in a direction you're not moving it in. My camera got fucked a little bit, the weird control. I don't know if that was me fucking around or if that was the heathen. Whoa. My camera just fucking zipped. Using that, you can follow the exact same method as the flickering clue. However, the camera will not jerk if you aren't moving the cameras, so you'll need to get into the habit of doing that often. Although that really shouldn't be a problem since, again, you can't see the whole camera unless you move it. This is also the night where I want to talk about the Marionette and how she works. Just like Balloon Bitch, you can't see the Marionette on the cameras. However, you can hear her. You can tell which camera she is on by listening for the music box. If you hear it, then you know that the Marionette is on whichever camera you're looking at. Fundamentally, is this different from the 4 main characters? No. However, I do think it's a super fun addition to the formula, where if we were using our hypothetical again from earlier, let's imagine all 4 of the main characters are on a camera and the camera is jerking in a random direction when we move it. Then, all 4 characters leave at the same time, but the camera is still somehow jerking. Then you notice that you've been hearing the music box the whole time and just weren't paying attention. Now you know that it has to be the Marionette. It's not that it's hard to figure out, but it may be something that slips your mind as you're so focused on trying to find the ghost. I love the Marionette in this game, and if you couldn't guess from my constant glaze, it's the best Marionette I've ever seen out of any FNAF game. After completing night 3, we find another tape. On it, we watch the ghost leave Freddy and move to Bonnie. Then see Bonnie carry another piece of the mangle to the secret door. This is another thing I really like about this game. Even though you can't feel it, you know both you and Paul Bear are in a race against the clock. As with every passing night, the mangle gets closer and closer to being completed. And you know that once it's finished, your chances of winning become slim to none. Heading back to the Barrens, Paul Bear isn't present. Climbing up a ladder, we find him in a tree looking out at the brain. We tell him that our investigation ends soon. Paul Bear mentions that the spirits know he's in the Barrens with us by now, and we devise a plan to break into the secret room, the basement, and get to the mangle before it's put together. Sharing a moment of solace together, we head back into the restaurant. Somehow, this game is actually making me care about a character, which is insane to say given the fact I'm talking about a FNAF game right now. But regardless, it's on to Night 4. Night 4 introduces the most ball-busting clue we've ever seen: camera malfunctions. This does exactly what you'd think. The possessed animatronic will cause a malfunction on whatever camera they are on. That means if we go back to our hypothetical, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and the marionette are all on the same camera. One of them becomes possessed, so we lose the ability to see that camera. Fuck. Continuing to watch the cameras, we hear the music box stop, but the malfunction continues. We now know that it can't be the marionette. All of a sudden, the camera pops back on, and all we can see is Bonnie. Well, now we know that it can't be Bonnie. Now we look around the cameras until we find the malfunctioning one again. As we look, we spot Foxy on a camera. We now know that the ghost is either Freddy or Chica. Oh fuck. You quickly check the control panel and see that Freddy and Chica are both at 15 stability. What are we to do? We don't have enough time to keep watching. So it is now our time to make a decision you will probably have to make at least once in your playthrough. Praying to the RNG gods that the ghost isn't in Freddy as you send him down the conveyor belt. Freddy finally arrives and you don't die, so you now know it has to be Chica. Realistically, this exact situation doesn't happen all too often, but I do think this malfunction clue is by far the most stressful out of all of them. I think it adds a new type of tension that the game needed. I love this clue. I think it adds a whole new interesting way of analyzing the threat. It's fantastic. After completing the night, we find another VHS. In it, we see the ghost possess Chica while she's sleeping, and she takes another piece to the basement. Heading back to the Barrens, we keep it short and sweet with Paul Bear. He says he knows of a way to the basement, and we tell him that after we wrap up our investigation tonight, we'll meet back up with him and head there to put an end to this. Heading to bed, it's on to Night 5. Night 5 adds no new clues, only being a more difficult version of Night 4, and by more difficult, I mean we have to find the ghost 7 times instead of 6. I'm really out of things to talk about when it comes to the night sections, as I've talked about everything that's relevant throughout them. All we have left to talk about now is in the basement. After completing Night 5, we get one last tape revealing all of the characters awakening the Mangle, a foreshadow of what's to come. Heading back to the Barrens, Paul Bear explains the plan. We'll go along with whatever the Mangle has planned and lure her into the Barrens and trap her forever. We say our final goodbyes to Paul Bear and enter the basement, not knowing what's ahead of us. Upon entering the basement, we're greeted to a new office. The basement serves as Night 6, the boss fight night. I'm just gonna put this out here right now. I am not a fan of Night 6, gameplay-wise at least. I think it looks great, and I think it serves excellent story purposes, but I think it's a massive step back from the core loop of the game. The basement is set up exactly how the office from FNAF 2 is. 2 open vents to your left and right, and a large hallway in front of you. You have access to a flashlight, cameras, and a Bonnie mask. Yes, it's literally just FNAF 2, even equipped with a music box to constantly wind throughout. Maybe this is the reason I don't like this night. Just kidding, it's not a maybe. Of course this is the reason I don't like it. I'm not a huge FNAF 2 fan personally, so seeing it in a FNAF game that I really like puts a bad taste in my mouth. However, I'm not going to let that discourage me. How does this night play, and are there any redeeming qualities? Throughout the night, all you have to do is wind the music box and put on your mask whenever the animatronic enters your office. If you ever see Foxy in the hallway, flash your light at him. Guys, it's literally just FNAF 2. I really don't have to explain this to you. The characters even look different on this night, and in the extras menu, this version of them is called Withered. It's FNAF 2. That's it. That is until the halfway mark. What the fuck? We were the Mangle. What the fuck? Conveyor belt. Yo! What the fuck? Yo, the time's all fucked. What the fuck is that thing? Oh, nah. Halfway through the night, your control panel will be forced up. You'll be able to see the conveyor belt and watch as each character makes its way through. Several sticky notes ridiculing you. Every single animatronic sacrifices its body to the Mangle, and it's finally time for the final fight. The Mangle enters the building, and now is the perfect time to talk about how fucking disgusting these character models look, especially Mangle. The level of detail in these characters is insane. Seeing Mangle on the cameras is probably the most uncomfortable thing about this entire game. She's so gross and it's super cool. But I do have to ask the question, why the fuck do they look like this? Is our main character going insane and imagining that they look like monsters more than they do? Or did the manufacturers of these robots actually design the most fucked up, creepy robots of all time? Anyways, once the Mangle spawns, the way this night is played changes. Now, for some unknown reason, Mangle has an owl attached to her. Does that make sense? I'm sure there's a reason for it, but I can't for the fuck of me figure out what that might be. Occasionally, this owl head will appear in either of your two vents. When it does, all you have to do is put the mask on until it leaves. Mangle herself has a chance to appear in the hallway. As far as I can tell, she has no sound cues, so you have to constantly check for her yourself. When she's there, hold the flashlight on her until she leaves. Finally, we have the most soul-sucking, nutsack-tearing, butthole-puckering mechanic in the entire goddamn game. The Ghost. The Ghost can appear on any camera. You'll be able to tell because you can see her hand. When you see the Ghost, all you have to do is hold the light on the camera until it disappears. You might be asking yourself, why the fuck is that a problem? That sounds even easier than the owl. Hell, I almost guarantee you will never be able to see the cameras in your entire fucking life. Why? Well, as I'm sure you're aware if you've ever played a FNAF game before, when a character moves from one camera to another, it's very common for the camera to go black for a moment. This is done so that you don't see the characters teleporting out of sight. However, the Mangle moves so goddamn cocksucking fast through the cameras that they will be black for about, 90% of the fucking night. Meaning that, very rarely will you be able to check if the Ghost is on a camera. Could we stop? Could we stop? Literally, what the fuck am I supposed to do? She's moving around the camera so fast, I can't even fucking look to hold the light on her. I feel like this is unintentionally difficult, but it's actually so bullshit, it's not even close to fun. This is the main reason why I dislike Night 6 as much as I do. Dying because I couldn't find the Ghost because I can't see the fucking cameras for more than 0.3 seconds every 14 decades is not fun. It ruins the pacing of the game and destroys all immersion I had in the situation. But if you can manage to not get fingered by the Ghost, you'll survive to 6 AM and lure the Ghost into the Barrens. The Ghost grabs Paul Bear, revealing he himself is a costume, not an actual plush bear. Surprise, surprise. This should have been obvious. The Ghost tells Paul Bear she's going to kill us, but we quickly run up behind her while she's distracted and fucking gank her ass. Dead kids! Rah! Rah! The screen cuts to black. We learn 5 years later, Juniors would reopen after some significant rebranding, focusing on, quote, family fun and above all safety. A line that should be familiar sounding if you've played the official games. Finally, a character named Jeremy is asked when they're free to start the job. Let's pause. This twist is pretty damn cool. We saw an exact replica of the FNAF 2 office on Night 6, and now we learn that Jeremy Fitzgerald is being hired. Of course, knowing the official lore, Jeremy was the night guard in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and the family fun and above all safety is something the phone guy says in FNAF 2 as well, which would lead me to believe that the rebranding of Juniors was to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in the form of the pizzeria we see in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, using the toy animatronics and the layout we find in the basement. But with that final awesome twist, Juniors comes to a close. Overall, I think Juniors is unironically the best Five Nights at Freddy's game I've ever played, even beating out the official games. Sure, I'm not the biggest fan of the final boss night, but the rest of the game easily makes up for that shortcoming. Juniors is 100% at the top of my fan game tier list, and I highly doubt it will be losing that position anytime soon. A plot twist is a literary technique that introduces a radical change in the direction or expected outcome of the plot in a work of fiction. Now tell me, can you think of a horror game that pulls off an insane twist? Maybe Resident Evil 8 in its crazy twist comes to mind. Now let me ask you another question. Can you name a FNAF game with a crazy twist? A twist so cool you have to sit back and think, wow, that was pretty sick. The game I'll be covering today has one of those twists, and I'm incredibly excited to share with you the amazing experience I had while playing Showman's The Awakening. For those of you already familiar with this game, you may know that it actually has a game that came before it. Kinda. Years ago, the same developer released a game called Phobia: The Awakening, using the Wiggles as inspiration for the characters. Well, turns out the dev wanted to remake their game using their own original characters to continue the story, so now here we are with Showman's. This may lead you to ask the question, if I've already played Phobia, is there even a point to playing Showman's? And trust me, this is a question I've asked myself. Originally, I saw people asking me to play Showman's. I played Phobia on my second channel, Dexter Black, not knowing at the time that Showman's was a thing, learning soon after the first episode went up that it was in fact a thing. So I questioned, does it even bother to play it? Well, recently I've made the decision to do exactly that and give Showman's a try. And let's just say, if you've played Phobia, play Showman's. It's everything Phobia is and more. So join me as we quake our asses into Showman's The Awakening. In Showman's, we play as a guy named Mark Ward, an employee of Showman's Pizza Place. And in night 1, we're introduced to 2 of the animatronics that will be trying to insert their fingers into orifices we'd really prefer they keep their grubby little hands away from. But before we can talk about them, we should talk about the tools at our disposal. Something really interesting you'll notice about the office is that you're able to look everywhere. Up, down, left, right, behind you, below you. It's actually really cool. It's really the first thing I noticed jumping into the game. The reason for this is actually because Showman's wasn't created in ClickTeam Fusion like most FNAF games are. Instead, it was created in Blender, which is what most FNAF games use to model their characters, and is something I also had no idea could be used to program a game. So that was pretty cool learning for the first time. Anyways, you'll see 2 large hallways on your left and right, which you can light up using buttons on your desk. In front of you is this lady. Hey, hottie. She's not hot, I'm not even gonna lie, she's not even bad. Who we'll be talking about later in the video. And if you look behind you, you'll be able to see the clock where you can tell how much longer of the night you have to get through. Oh yeah, and of course, there's cameras, because it really wouldn't be a FNAF game without those. With that out of the way, now we can talk about the first 2 threats this game introduces, Johnny and Harry. Now I know, those names aren't very normal sounding when thinking in terms of Five Nights at Freddy's, when usually we're having names so utterly stupid you'd be forced to think they were a fictional character. But no, these 2 are still robots, and you still cannot have intercourse with them, so please remove all thoughts of that nature from your head for the remainder of this video. Johnny and Harry both start from the show stage and do the exact same thing. Johnny will move through the cameras to your right hallway, and Harry will move through your left hallway, where they will then enter what I'm going to be calling their attack mode. During their attack mode, they have 5 phases. Each phase has a sound cue, and it's important that you're listening for them. With each phase, they'll move closer and closer towards your office, with the final phase having them walk up to you. Obviously, you can check their distance by flashing the light at them, and by doing so, you will also temporarily stun them in place. However, I would highly recommend you don't turn the lights on when they're in the hall, as I personally feel it's much more efficient to just let them attack you so they can piss off as fast as possible. Every time Johnny or Harry enters a new phase, their eyes will glow for a short time after their sound cue plays. So when you hear it, you can just turn in the direction to double check that they've moved. On these earlier nights, you really don't have to be super careful with them. Flashing lights and not counting sound cues isn't really important since they're your only threats. So I'll get into a bit of a better strategy for them later on. However, once they enter your office, you'll have to quickly throw on a spare mask to fool them into walking away, just like the animatronics from Five Nights at Freddy's 2. And that's really it. Night 1 is pretty damn easy, really just introducing the basics needed to understand 2 very important mechanics. After beating Night 1, we see a cutscene, something that was not originally in Phobia. In it, we meet with the founder of Showman's, Jason Baker. He confirms with us that only Johnny and Harry were active on our shift, and we confirm. Apparently, this should not be happening, and it's a known issue. So that's good at least. Jason tells us that a previous employee mentioned more characters moving, which in all honesty doesn't bode well for my anus, given the fact we still have 5 more nights of this to deal with. But we get our things and go home for the night, only to come back to work in the morning. Night 2 introduces 2 new animatronics, and let me tell you, this is where the game starts to show how much of a pain in the dick it's about to become. The first character we should talk about is the fine shite sitting in front of us, Peggy. Peggy reminds me a lot of the scrapped animatronics from Five Nights at Freddy's Pizzeria Simulator, just given the fact of the way she moves subtly like them. She also reminds me a lot of what Anissa's husband really doesn't want her to do to him. Whenever you're not looking at her, whether that be checking on the cameras, looking at the hallways, or checking the clock behind you, Peggy has a chance to advance phases. You'll be able to see her start by looking down and slowly transfer through the phases until she's ready to attack. In order to reset her, all you have to do is flip the breaker switch on your desk to shock her and she'll reset. But be careful not to just spam this lever over and over, because every time you shock her, she becomes more aggressive, leading to the end of nights becoming incredibly stressful due to how fast she'll be attacking you. Cap'n Cackle is the other menace introduced on Night 2. He is this game's Foxy. If you couldn't tell by looking at him, he's a pirate, just like Foxy. Also, he looks like he's cracked out of his fucking mind, zooted to the fucking moon. Seriously, look at this geeked out motherfucker. Holy shit, bro hasn't slept in 18 days. Look at those eye bags. What the hell happened? Stop looking at me, dude. Tell me that guy doesn't smoke crystal meth. Look at those fucking eyes. What are you doing? Hey. That's the face I make when I'm about to eat ass, bro. Anyways, similar to Foxy, he'll have several phases on camera 6. Watching him will slow his progression and even in some cases make him go backwards. If he happens to leave camera 6, he doesn't do exactly what Foxy does. Instead, he'll just start moving through your cameras like any other character would, albeit very quickly. If you manage to stare at him in one of those other cameras, he will go back to camera 6, where you can continue oogling at him to make him stay put. Both Peggy and Cap'n Cackle work very well together, and the same goes for Johnny and Harry. We have 2 other central characters left to introduce, and you'll notice that those 2 also work very well in tandem with one another. This is something I need to give this game praise for. It is so incredibly good at introducing new mechanics in a way that's stressful, yet engaging and fun. You introduce Peggy, a character that moves when you don't look at her, and Cap'n Cackle, another character who moves when you're not looking at him. And because these 2 characters are in different places, it forces you to learn how to balance them together. God, it's so fucking cool. Similar to last night, this night also has a cutscene after completion. In it, we're seen walking to the exit of the building. We hear a noise and quickly turn around to see an unknown animatronic staring back at us. It stares for a while before turning around and walking away. This is a character we haven't yet seen. Even the characters we'll be talking about on later nights can be seen on the cameras all the time, but this one can't. Keep him in the back of your head as he'll become important later. For now, let's move on to Night 3. Night 3 only introduces one character, but it also introduces another incredibly important mechanic, that being your vents. The animatronic introduced on Night 3 is Tony the Chef. He will enter your vents. You'll notice on your cameras that you have 3 camera vents. Tony can enter 2 of them, those being either camera 12 or camera 11. In these vents, he will have multiple phases he will move through before attempting to enter your office. With each movement, a very quiet sound cue will play, a stark contrast to Phobia where the sound cue was very noticeable. By double-clicking on a vent cam, you can lock the vent. Locking a vent uses no power because the game has no power to begin with. Praise God. Once a vent is closed, you can keep it closed as long as you'd like, with no consequences. The only downside is that you can only close one vent at a time. So this night really isn't all too different from Night 2. Well, now's the time when I want to talk about sound cue counting with Johnny and Harry, as it's this night where you'll probably want to start getting used to doing that. As I mentioned earlier, Johnny and Harry each have 5 different phases in your hallway. The first is when they initially enter the hallway. You'll be able to tell because you can see their eyes in the hallway for a brief moment, and because you'll be able to hear their big ol' feet stomping around, kind of like I want Toy Chica to stomp on my testicles. Once one of them enters your hallway, you can stop checking on them and focus on listening. Start a mental count of 3 in your head. All sounds in this game are directional, so that really helps. Whenever you hear footsteps on either side of you, decrease that side's number by 1. Once the counter reaches 0, you know that the next time you hear footsteps from that side is when they'll walk into your office to attack.
Okay, 4 left. Or 3 till he's at the last stage. 2 left until he hits door. Okay, 1 more. And he's at the line. He's walking the thin line. 1 more. I want to see how close I can cut it. Hi. Oh, yes. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for that.
Doing this while they're both attacking you at the same time can get a little overwhelming, and on later nights they do like to attack together a lot. But if you can nail this counting strategy, they really shouldn't be too much of an issue. After completing night 3, we get to watch another lovely cutscene. In it, we're looking through the factory for who the fuck knows what. We open a crate and find a Johnny plush inside. Seeing this toy seems to trigger some primal instinct in us, and we pass the fuck out. Honestly, bro, probably not the greatest place to lose consciousness. I'm not even gonna front. We awake in another room, only to look up and see Showman. Scared as shit, we wake up from our slumber only to realize it was a short dream we had after we had passed out. There is clearly something mentally wrong with our dear, beloved Mark. We just have to figure out what it is. Night 4 introduces the man himself, Showman. Showman works in perfect tandem with Tony, also attacking your vents. Although, unlike Tony, Showman can only attack your camera 13 vent. However, he also fucking loves to do this at the same time that Tony is jumping penis first into your vents. Showman only has 3 phases in the vent before attacking, so notably faster than Tony. So while both of them are attacking your vent, you really have to be counting their positions to figure out whose vent you need to close first, because once again, you can only have one closed at a time. If one of those fuckers get into your office, they're gonna crank that soldier boy and clock you in the jaw.
I'm just gonna go ahead and put this on and hope to God. Okay, so it didn't work. I couldn't tell which one was closer, bro. I thought the guy I had blocked off was closer. I couldn't tell.
All in all, each character is incredibly easy to deal with, but because of how perfectly they all work together, it can lead to an incredibly stressful experience trying to play against all of them at the same time. However, never at any point throughout my playthrough did I feel like this game was unfair or that RNG was too much of a factor. This game, dare I say it, might have borderline perfect video game balancing. After completing night 4, of course, we get another cutscene. This one taking place before we go to work for the night. Before we enter our car, we get a call from Jason, telling us not to come in to work tonight. He says things are getting too dangerous and that it would be unsafe for us to go through our shift. We agree to not go in tonight, except the plot twist is that I fucking lied and we're gonna go in anyways, because we hate authority like a 16-year-old white boy from the suburbs. On night 5, we get a call from the phone guy, and let me tell you, he is absolutely pissed that we decided to come in for the night. He explains that anything in that building that moves will be demolished in the morning. He tells us to do whatever it is we're trying to do and get out, because they're not going to send anyone into the building to get us out. Other than that, Night 5 is exactly what you'd think it is, just a much more difficult version of Night 4, really testing your reflexes and especially your nerve control. But on this night is when I have to bring up really the only problem I have with this game. Volume. This game is actually the loudest fucking game on planet Earth. Holy shit. Everything makes noise, and it makes a damn lot of it at that. There are typically ambient sounds in FNAF games, but for the love of God, this game plays intense music throughout most of the night, and it is loud as dick and balls. Want to hear the best part? As you get closer and closer to 6 a.m., the music adds more components and gets even fucking louder! This really doesn't help when so much of my strategy revolved around listening to sound cues. It's fucking crazy just how loud this game is! Now granted, was this something that was intended? Most definitely. And I'm not even saying that it's a bad thing, because obviously, inherently, it isn't. I was still able to beat the game just fine, and I feel like most other people would be able to beat it just fine as well. But this is something I couldn't not talk about. I love this game, but of course I'm not going to always be able to glaze everything I see, and I think this is truly the only flaw this game has. But hey, who gives a fuck about what I think? Let's move on to the cutscene, baby. Let me just say, I love this cutscene. I think everything about it is great. The pacing, the acting, everything is just so good that I don't want to ruin it by just talking about it. I'd much rather just show you.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, put your hands together for our birthday boy!
Just leave me alone.
Well, god damn. We really should have listened and not come back, huh? So, it's safe to say that our pal Mark really got fucked here. Something I think is actually really cool. It's fairly common for FNAF games to have a character die in them, most commonly a phone guy, but to actually see it like this is just awesome. Going into night 6, we actually get a cutscene before the night happens rather than after it. In it, we play as the phone guy going into the building to get Mark. After a bit of searching, we find him, and once again, I think it'll just sit much better with you if you just watch it for yourself.
Mark? Is that you?
You shouldn't have went in there, bro. You shouldn't have went in there, bro. You shouldn't have went in there, bro. You should have done that shit. Oh, fuck.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Oh
What do
my
I do?
God.
What do I do? Keep yourself together.
Are you fucking me? That's right. Turns out Mark isn't dead, but is just kind of possessed. Phone guy, or his real name, Matthew, runs back to the office with Mark on the pursuit, and night 6 begins. Night 6 consists of 4 threats, 2 of which we've already covered, Cap and Cackle and Peggy. However, you'll immediately notice that they both look pretty fucked up. Why is this? Well, turns out by demolish the animatronics, they really meant set the whole fucking building on fire. Because once again, it wouldn't be a FNAF game without a fire, right? Oh yeah, and of course, they are way more aggressive. Another thing you'll notice immediately is that we're stuck with the flashlight instead of the building lights. And let me tell you, as I'm sure you can already see, it is dark as fucking shit in this goddamn building with no lights. Of course, your flashlight has power, so you'll have to use it sparingly. You'll need to use it to check the hallways and to even be able to see Peggy in front of you. This honestly adds a whole new level of fear to this game, mainly with Peggy. I never got very good at telling when she switched positions, and to now have it where I can't even naturally see her just added a whole new fear factor, and I love it. The other 2 threats are the animatronic we saw in the post-night 2 cutscene, dubbed The Figure, and Mark himself, which is honestly one of the coolest twists I've ever seen. Having the character you've been playing as the whole time flip like this, it's insane. It's honestly one of the coolest things I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game. Let's start with Mark. Mark works the same as Harry and Johnny, except I feel like he's even easier. He can attack from either of the 2 halls, and unlike Johnny and Harry, you cannot see his eyes. He's also much, much quieter. The reason I think he's easier? Well, you don't have to do any mental counting to tell when he's going to attack, as he has a totally unique sound cue for when he enters your office, So as long as you've got fast reflexes, it's really just a game of waiting to hear the sound cue and putting on the mask. The final new threat on this night is, of course, the Figure. He takes the place of Tony and Showman attacking your vents. He can attack any of the three you have, since there won't be two characters going for the vents at the same time. Again, I honestly feel like this is easier than Tony and Showman. Of course, the Figure is fucking light speed fast when choosing and climbing through vents, so as long as you've got fast reflexes, it really shouldn't be too much of a challenge. Ironically enough, the main challenge I had with this night was not the two new threats, but the two returning threats, Peggy and Cap'n Cackle. Again, these two have the best synergy out of any of the characters in this game, so bringing them back for night 6 was a no-brainer. Really, the actual problem for me was Peggy. The sheer speed at which she moves is enough to make you shit in your britches, and nearing the end of the night, she will be moving at a speed Usain Bolt would be creaming his pants over. But if you can control your nerves for long enough, you'll complete night 6 and move on to the post-night cutscene. Matthew runs as fast as he can to the exit, only to find it locked. Turning around, we see Mark slowly creeping up on us like the booty cheek creep freak. The screen cuts to black, and we're left with only the screams of Matthew echoing throughout the pizzeria, and Showman's The Awakening comes to a close. Kind of. We're not exactly done just yet. There's actually 6 other secrets this game has to offer, that being the secret tapes. On each night, you will be able to find one of these tapes and play them later. On night 1, if you check camera 9, you'll be able to see a tape on the shelf in the top left corner. Night 2's tape is located in one of the drawers in your office. Night 3's tape is located on camera 3 on a shelf in the bottom left corner. Night 4's tape is located on camera 2 at the top of the screen. Night 5's tape is located on camera 5 on a high shelf in the middle of the camera. And Night 6 tape is conveniently located directly in front of you on the desk. Hey there, post-scripting Deku here. Turns out I'm fucking wrong. These are not the locations of the tapes on every night. Turns out every single night, besides the 6th one, has a random location for each tape, each being on a different camera. This was just the order that I had. So, yeah. Sorry about that. These tapes, as I'm sure you could have guessed, go over some extra bits of lore to help us piece together the story. And this is the part of the video where I say, I'm very sorry guys, I'm terrible at talking about story, but I'm going to try my best here. Tape 1 shows all of the characters on stage singing the happy birthday song to a kid whose name isn't explicitly said. We can see by the date of the tape that this takes place in 1995. Tape 2 seems to be a sort of log from Jason, explaining his reasoning for why he believes the characters are acting so hostile. Originally, when they were first being built, they attempted to add an advanced facial recognition system that would allow the characters to actually see and think for themselves. Although the system never ended up working as intended, they wiped the idea from their systems. Well, guess what, fucker? Turns out they really didn't, and Jason seems to think that this is the reason the characters are acting the way they are. Jason makes a brief mention of an unnamed him and questions if one of his employees are potentially tampering with the characters. I'm guessing that him is referring to either Mark or the Figure. Tape 3 shows 2 guys working on Tony. They're talking about how these robots should be scrapped because of how old they are, and then the guy in the back says a sentence that I literally cannot for the fucking life of me decipher. Like many other things in this game, the static that plays during these cutscenes is so fucking loud I can't hear anything except it. I'll play what he says here, and if any of you guys can decipher it, please let me know in the comments.
That company's been up in deals with recently.
Well, why?
Tape 4 is one of my favorites. It really gives off the FNAF VHS style that I really like. A maintenance worker is running a test on Cap'n Cackle. It doesn't quite go as planned as he bugs out, so they restart him and then get attacked. Afterwards, showing the lifeless corpse of the employee laying on the floor in front of Cap'n Cackle. It's just such an unnerving moment to see this in person. Usually when it comes to FNAF games and death, you don't see it. So seeing it in a game like this is really unnerving, and it adds a sort of realism to the actual events that are taking place. Tape 5 is probably my favorite of all the tapes, being the most terrifying in my opinion. In it, we're in the perspective of what sounds like a young girl. Hiding under a table, we hear a scream from another room. Shortly after, Johnny walks into the room and starts to look around. The girl accidentally makes a noise, and when she looks back up, Johnny is staring at her. And he quickly goes for the kill. This is such a fucking horrific and terrifying situation to think about being in, and I think that's why I like it so much. Just imagining being in the same situation makes my hair stand. Tape number 6 is an odd one. We appear to be being spoken to by the figure. He tells us that the birthday we saw earlier was Timmy's 12th birthday. He had 2 of his friends with him that day, and it was a party made specifically for him. Then we see 3 drawings of his friends, all of them sad. The figure appears in front of us and slowly glances up before the tape ends. Again, as I've previously stated, lore analysis is not my strong suit at all, so I really can't even begin to imagine what anything here means. I know robots mad and robots kill, and I think that is neat enough. Overall, Showman's The Awakening is such a big step up from Phobia, and while I still do love that game, I think I love Showman's even more. Amazing graphical upgrades, fantastic cutscenes, and a gameplay loop that's so fun, difficult, yet still not frustrating. This game really has it all, and I truly think it's a fantastic game to play if you're at all interested in horror games. Even if you're not a huge Five Nights at Freddy's fan, I still think you should give it a try.
Crack cocaine. Have you ever thought about trying it? Have you ever tried it? I haven't. However, I might as well have. After playing the game I'll be talking about today, I would imagine that I was acting the same as someone who was on cocaina, booger, sugar, crack, white shit. What is said game, you may be asking? Well, the game I'll be talking about today is called Graveyard Shift at Freddy's. This game is really fucking hard. I called Mary's Arcade the Dark Souls of FNAF fan games. This is the Elden Ring. Granted, I will be the first to admit that I'm absolutely terrible at FNAF games, no doubt about it, but I struggled more with this one than with Mary's Arcade, so eat my nuts, it's harder. Graveyard Shift at Freddy's also shares one glaring similarity with another game I've covered on this channel, A Shadow Over Freddy's. That similarity being, the creator of the game has removed it from Game Jolt and finding it isn't very easy. You guys hated it when I called A Shadow Over Freddy's banned, so I won't be making the mistake of calling it that again to avoid the outcome of you all pissing yourselves. But I will say that finding this game was a little more difficult than finding A Shadow Over Freddy's, since the developer of the game is doing everything in her power to remove uploads of it, but rest assured, if you look long enough, you'll find it. She can't beat all of us. The reason this game was deleted, as I'm sure you could probably guess, is because the creator is a slimy, greasy little hobgoblin degenerate. Of course, it's always the devs of amazing games who end up being the worst. Hint hint, Jonachrome, but I'll touch on that at the end of the video. Separating the art from the artist, Graveyard Shift at Freddy's is honestly a masterpiece. There's definitely some things about it I want to complain about, go figure, that's pretty much all I do on this channel, but I can't neglect how fantastic it really is. The level of detail is impeccable, and I'm excited to share it here today with you. Before I get into this game, I do want to give a warning for those who are not familiar. If you are light sensitive or have a condition like epilepsy, it might be best for you to just turn this on for sound in the background, as a lot of this game has flashing lights, and I will be showing it on screen. Just had to get that out of the way. So without further ado, let's dive into my most recent therapy session topic, Graveyard Shift at Freddy's. A Graveyard Shift at Freddy's begins with a text-based cutscene. Get used to this because you'll be seeing way more. We're told from the view of a news broadcast that a journalist by the name of Sam Rodriguez has been missing, following a story about an eatery called Freddy Bear's. After Sam went into the building to investigate, he's never been seen since. Fun fact, we actually play as Sam, so this indicates to us that this news broadcast must be happening sometime in the future. I will talk about the rest of these text-based cutscenes at the end of the video. I just wanted to really establish that we are playing as Sam right now. So again, I'll cover the rest of them and I'll recap this night's one, but for now, we're just going to talk about the game like I like to do. Night 1 begins and we open to our office. This is where I want to pause for a moment just to say that the graphics in this damn game, I'm not ever one to give too much of a shit about video game graphics. I care much more about gameplay and story. My favorite game is Undertale, and the graphics of that game are kinda ass, but god damn, this game looks great. Anyways, on night 1, we get a call from the owner of the restaurant. His name is Mr. Raglan. Raglan tells us about how the shift is going to work, of course, leaving out the fact that the animatronics move in typical FNAF fashion. The mechanics of this game are solid, I can't lie. There's not a whole lot to complain about, except one teensy tiny little problem. To start, we have cameras like any other FNAF game, and in our office we have a big ticket booth in front of us. At any time we can pull down a large metal door to block it off, and when we do, a hydraulics meter slowly goes down. If it ever empties, it will open back up. Once you open the door, that hydraulic meter will start to climb back up. Also in our office is a light that lights up the ticket window, which thankfully doesn't run on any power, and we can use it as much as we want. However, you do have to pull down the glass covering it every time you push it, something I just found a little weird. On your desk, you'll find a router. If you switch through your cameras too quickly, which I assure you, you will be doing quite frequently, the cameras will begin to go, as Mr. Raglan said, quite funky. The screen just gets super pixelated and you won't be able to see dick. To fix this, you'll need to turn off the router in your office for a few seconds and then flip it back on. Super simple. If you look back in the cameras, you'll see an alarm button. This is used to stop animatronics. I know that explanation is vague, but once I start talking about the animatronics, it will make much more sense, so just hang in there, champ. Lastly, you might notice the other button in the camera, mentioning a speed up. Remember when I mentioned there's one teensy tiny little mechanic I'm not the biggest fan of? This is that mechanic. You might notice there are no camera buttons. That's because in a Graveyard Shift at Freddy's, you have no control over the cameras. No. Instead, there's a switch time visible on the cameras that slowly goes down. Once it's empty, it will automatically switch to the next camera, starting from camera 1 and going to camera 7, then restarting at 1 again. Using the speed up button will make the time go down significantly faster. You can, however, drop your camera to stall this timer. If it hasn't yet sunk in how soul-suckingly excruciating this mechanic is yet, just give it a bit. You'll soon understand. There is one more mechanic in this game, but it isn't introduced until night 3, so I'll cover it then. But now, I should probably talk about night 1 and the threats it poses. In night 1, there's only one threat, and that's Bonnie. Bonnie will move around the cameras until he moves into an attack phase. There are 3 different ways that Bonnie can get into your office. How is that possible if there's only the ticket window? I hear you asking in anticipation for my genius 200 IQ response. Well, in addition to the ticket window, there's actually a door to your office behind you. Some animatronics will be able to attack you from that door as well, but if you really want to shart your pants, the catch is you can't fucking turn around. So, how do you deal with animatronics that attack from that door? Well, that's simple. You just don't let them get there. And that's where the alarm mechanic comes in handy. Most places Bonnie goes aren't very important. There are only 2 cameras that really matter when it comes to Bonnie, camera 5 and camera 6. When Bonnie first reaches camera 5, he will be in either one of 2 locations. One location where he's standing in the middle of the room, which I will be calling the safe location, and another location where he's standing right next to the employees only door, which happens to be pretty much right behind you. I will be calling this location the bad location. If you ever see Bonnie in the safe location, then you know you can just let him keep moving, as he will always move into camera 6 next. But if Bonnie is in the bad location, you'll have to use your alarm to distract him, and when you do, he'll very creepily look at you, which I think is really cool, and once you use the alarm on him, you'll know that he'll move to camera 6. Once Bonnie has made it to camera 6, he once again has 2 locations he can be at: a safe location where he's standing far away from the camera, and a bad location where he's standing close to the camera and peeking around a corner or doorway. I can't really tell. It's kind of hard to see on cameras a lot of the time. Same with camera 5. If Bonnie's in a safe location, you can ignore him, and if Bonnie is in the bad location, you just use the alarm on him to distract him and set him on the right path. Sounds difficult? Well, keep in mind, you can't really check cameras 5 and 6 because of the stupid fucking timer. Once Bonnie makes it to camera 6 and is in a safe location, or has been distracted by the alarm, he will then skip camera 7 and go straight to your window. This is another point where I really just want to sit back and look at how amazing this game's animations are. When Bonnie, or any animatronic for that matter, comes to your window, the animation quality they have while doing so is incredible. But obviously, when Bonnie is at your window, close the door, wait for his footsteps to be heard before reopening it. And congrats, you've dealt with Bonnie's cycle. He's just gonna keep doing that over and over again. Have fun. I actually think that Bonnie is the most difficult animatronic to deal with. You'll understand why when I talk about everybody else. Even though his mechanic is really easy, when you pair it with what everybody else does, his easily becomes the hardest. That was just night 1. We have a bunch more characters to talk about, so I hope you're ready. Night 2 gives us Miss Thickums herself, Chica, and her cupcake, which the game calls Cream. If I'm being honest with you, this game makes me do the same. Chica is pretty easy to deal with. She can only attack from the ticket window, and she'll only appear at the ticket window if you find her on the cameras. When you do, she'll bolt off at the speed of Tyson Gay, and when you pull your camera down, she'll be leaning into your window. All you have to do is close the gate, but you will notice that it takes Chica much longer to leave than Bonnie, so that's just something to make you rip your ball sack off and throw it in a river. Cream, on the other hand, is not easy to deal with, and in all honesty makes me want to stick my willy in a beehive. Cream appears on camera 7, and similar to Foxy from FNAF 1, has multiple different stages that she will move through before entering her attack phase. The first 2 phases both have sound cues, which are just the sounds of a vent. However, upon entering her 3rd stage, she does this really awesome thing where she doesn't make fucking noise at all, and you're left to just shit your britches and hope you both notice and remember to check camera 7. Once she reaches her final phase, all you need to do is use the alarm on her camera and she'll piss off. But it is critical to keep in mind that you also have to take care of all the other bullshit this game has to throw at you, including the stupid fucking automatically switching cameras. I can't handle it. Night 3 introduces a character that makes me want to wipe my ass with sandpaper, Barry the Bat. Barry adds something that this game didn't need at all, something so atrociously frustrating that I want to rip all my teeth out, get dentures, and then rip all the teeth out of the dentures. Barry the Bat effectively acts as a music box. In a game where you can't fucking control which camera you're looking at, isn't that fantastic? No. Ding ding ding, we have a fucking genius in the crowd, guys. Barry the Bat is on camera 5, which I'm very grateful for since that's also where Bonnie makes his dumb little idiot pick a path decision. So at least I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone on this camera. I should say that Barry's music box isn't literally a music box. Instead, music will be playing, and when music is playing, Barry doesn't move. However, the music is on a timer. After a certain point, which is indicated by a small little white bar, the music will stop, and you will have to turn it back on by going to camera 5. While the music box is not playing, Barry will make her way through 5 different states, just like Cream. However, there's also this really silly little side effect where once Barry moves forward a state, she will never move back for the rest of the night. That means that if the music stops and you're busy dealing with Bonnie, staring at Cream, waiting 8 centuries for Chica to leave your door, dealing with some bullshit that the other animatronics do that I'll be talking about soon, or just scratching her ass and smelling it, then Barry will just move her happy ass through all the stages, and there will be no way for you to make her go back. God, if you can hear me, please, just kill me. Can you do that for me? Thank you. Night 4 introduces Sheriff Slithers. Look at this little fucking goon. This little ugly, slithery shit. This little goop-ass snake. I just fucking... This motherfucker right here rapes me with that hat on. He rides me like a cowboy, ropes me up with a lasso, and stabs me with those little stupid boot spikes. I hate this little idiot so much I can't even describe it to you. This little moron right here is why this game is so goddamn hard. Let me explain. From a glance, Sheriff Slither's mechanic is simple. He will appear on a camera, and all you have to do is look at him for a small amount of time, and he'll happily go away. But, and this is a very large but, he can appear on any camera besides 7 at complete random. He makes a sound cue, but my god is it quiet. So quiet it might not even fucking be there. The amount of times I've died just because of this little dunce is immeasurable. His mechanic is so easy, but paired with every other mechanic you have to deal with that is also annoying as hell, this little guy becomes the straw that breaks the camel's back. I'd say I'd want to rip my hair out because of this guy, but I already have, and I've also waited for it to grow back just so that I could rip it out again. Fuck Sheriff Slithers, He's a bitch. But now I get to talk to you about Night 5. And if you know anything about the relationship between Night 5 and me in FNAF games, then you'd know I'm about to complain even more, because not only is our relationship toxic, it's also incredibly abusive. But I need to get this out of my system. Night 5 introduces the man, the myth, the used car salesman, Freddy, or who this game chooses to call Freddy Bear, or Dreddy Bear in this night. Dreddy Bear, if I were to describe him to you, I'd probably say he's like if you took a pile of shit that's been pissed on, go ahead and throw it in the microwave for like 10 minutes while it's in a Ziploc bag, take it out, open up that puppy, stick your face right in it, and just take a big whiff. Just a long 8-second inhale. That is what Dreddy Bear is like in this godforsaken game. Freddy moves his way through the cameras like most other characters, except there's a really sick and totally awesome little quirk about him. Similar to Barry the Bat, there's no way to ever make Dreddy Bear move backward. Once he reaches your office, it's game over. Not even closing the ticket window will make him go away. You're just fucked. So what you have to do is constantly look at him for as long as you can. He can't move while you're looking at him. Now, let's think about some things that could possibly make watching Dreddy Bear difficult, shall we? Well, to start, there's Cream, who you constantly have to check up on after you hear her second sound cue. Then we've got Barry, whose bitch ass needs me to watch her camera for when the music stops playing and starts throwing a little temper tantrum. We can't forget my favorite little fucker, Sheriff Slithers, who can appear on any camera at complete fucking random. Oh, and let's not forget the most infuriating part about needing to constantly watch the character. It's kind of fucking hard to do that when the cameras switch on the goddamn own and there's jack fuck shit I can do about it. So Dreddy Bear, Dreddy Boy, Dreddy Butt, Dreddy Bitch, Dreddy Boo isn't super fun to deal with. But just for a moment, let's imagine what it would be like if you were to beat Night 5. In fact, I'll even show you exactly what happens. What reward do you get for all of your suffering? Come on, let's take a look together. That's right. Dreddy Bear says, "Fuck yo goddamn window, little insignificant idiot," and just rips that shit right open and butt fucks you anyways. And yes, that is actually how the game ends. Is that not insane to you? Put aside the fact how badass the final cutscene looked, but just ask yourself, was it worth it? Because damn, rip main character. Imagine doing the impossible just to be fucked anyways. Absolutely crazy. Oh yeah, and in true FNAF style, there's also a challenge mode called Grave Danger mode, but I'm sure you could already have taken a guess. I didn't even pour a minute of my time into that bullshit. But that's what Graveyard Shift at Freddy's has to offer. But there are still 2 more things I want to talk about before we wrap this video up. The first thing I want to mention is the lore of this game. Remember at the beginning of the video when I said I'd get back to those text cutscenes? This is that point of the video, because it's honestly some of the coolest shit I've ever witnessed. Before each night, we're given some text on screen that unveils little pieces of the story, as I've previously mentioned. Before I start talking about the story, I do want to clarify that I don't know the story for certain. What I'm talking about and what I'm about to say is strictly my theory. I've already covered Night 1's pregame text, but I'll do it again. It seems to be straight from a news broadcast where the anchor mentions how their very own Sam Rodriguez has gone missing after doing a story about visiting the Freddy Bear's location, and nobody knows where he is. That's about all this night gives us. However, Night 2's pregame text seems to be from the perspective of the restaurant owner Raglan and a health inspector. The health inspector mentions how the mascots are stinky and, before leaving, notices the floor sounds hollow and is emitting a strange smell. When he mentions this, it noticeably makes Raglan uncomfortable. Raglan states that it's just the cellar where they store things. When the health inspector asks to see, Raglan seems hesitant, but then shows him. At this point, we don't learn what's down there, but we'll get back to that shortly. Night 3's pregame text comes from a journal entry of who I can only assume is Raglan. Raglan writes that he's told the animatronics to not try and leave the establishment, and that one night after closing, a character named Wolfgang tried to leave. However, after nearing the door, he presumably got set ablaze and fucking died, because when Raglan came back the next day, there were ashes left on the floor. Raglan took these ashes and showed them to the other animatronics and told them if they tried to leave, the same would happen to them. This was interesting to me. Not only does leaving the building cause the characters to die, this shows that that the characters can die and are therefore alive, which would lead me to believe that they're not just possessed mascots like in most other FNAF games, but are instead their own living organisms, which is honestly deeply disturbing to think about. But if that is the case, then what I still don't understand is why the animatronics would be trying to attack us unless they were maybe being controlled by something else. Night 4's pre-game text seems to take place between two parties, Sam Rodriguez's parent and their lawyer, and Raglan and his lawyer. They attempt to settle a dispute about where the missing Sam is, and his mother angrily lashes out at Raglan and his lawyer, saying how he just wants to see her boy again, claiming that Raglan's eatery has a known track record for disappearances and that she knows Raglan is the cause of her son's disappearance. Night 5's pre-game text reveals something crazy though. It's another journal entry from Raglan, this time years after his last, in 2017, the year this game takes place. Raglan questions how it has gone this far and that they should have gotten him by now, which could only be questioning how Sam has survived so many nights and how he's surprised that the characters hadn't killed him yet. Raglan mentions how the system they have has always worked so well, which would lead me to believe that he had a plan to have Sam killed by the mascots and that he has done this multiple times before. He mentions how back when he was in Sam's position years ago, he had made it this far, and on this night, Night 5, Freddy Bear appeared, except he looked and acted way differently. He mentioned how Freddy Bear was, quote, beyond hunger, end quote, which I actually believe is literal. We know in Night 5 that Freddy Bear did look much different from the other animatronic, contorting in unnatural ways, and after that night we see a newspaper clipping talking about Sam's disappearance and how it came 4 weeks after the disappearance of a health inspector named Gibson Newman. Sound familiar? It should, because that's the exact health inspector mentioned in the Night 2's pre-game text. I believe that Sam Raglan is hiring people to work at this establishment so that the mascots can kill them and eat them. Since I believe they're living organisms, that would only mean that they need to get energy somehow, and referencing how Raglan said Freddy Bear was, quote, beyond hunger, end quote, that could only mean that it's because he hadn't killed Sam yet, and Freddy Bear decided on Night 5 that he would take killing Sam into his own hands so that they could eat. I believe that both the reason the mascots smell bad and the cellars smelled bad was because the cellar is where the dead bodies of the previous victims were kept, and some of the bodily remains were caked into the fur of the mascots. I believe that the mascots are being controlled by some sort of demons that are confined to the restaurant, and that's why Wolfgang turned into ash when he attempted to leave. Steve Raglan is stuck finding new victims for them to kill and eat so that they don't turn around and kill him instead. That's why he was getting so nervous when he realized they hadn't killed Sam yet. But I don't think that's all. I think the mascots were all fucking with Sam the whole time. Freddy Bear is clearly strong enough to open the ticket booth door when it's down, as seen in Night 5, and I'm willing to bet that the others could do that as well. I think that the mascots are smart enough to know that you think you're playing a game and that your office is the safe point, and that the ticket booth door is the way you protect yourself in this, quote, game. I think the animatronics are knowingly playing along. Look at Chica, for example. When she's at the ticket window, she's clearly leaning into your office. Yet, instead of attacking you, she waits for you to close the window, and when you do, you can clearly visibly see her move out of the way so that it can close. These mascots know they can kill you at any time. They just wanted to play along and make you think you have a chance. All the way up to the last second when Freddy Bear finally decides the game's over, even in his final moments telling you your time playing the game is up.
Roblox horror games, something that is pretty atypical for this channel. In fact, I've only talked about Roblox horror games twice on this channel before. One video being about Rainbow Friends and the other about Pressure. However, recently I've been getting suggested a couple Roblox FNAF games to play. I always knew there were FNAF games on Roblox. In fact, there's a couple of Roblox games that place really high on the official Max Mode list. Of course, I did always intend on getting around to playing these games, and if you follow Dexter Black, you'll see that I have played a couple, and the game that we're covering here today is one of those games. A reimagining of one of the most hated official Five Nights at Freddy's games of all time, fixing all of its problems and introducing several new mechanics that make the game feel fresh, while also looking so graphically impressive, you'd be surprised to hear it was even made in Roblox at all. So join me today as we dive into the world of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 Reimagined. In terms of the game's overall story, not a whole lot has changed. At least, that is up until the end. We'll obviously talk about that later, so if you were hoping for a massive lore dump, hate to break it to you, it's pretty much just the official lore with a few changes. However, it's still told very well. Night 1 starts the way most do. You get a phone call from the phone guy, Ryan. Ryan gives us the basic rundown of what's going on, what we're doing, and how to do it. So I suppose that means it's also my turn to do the same for you. Except I'll throw in a couple dick jokes along the way, and then after the video is over, you could read the comments to find the few comedy police who say something along the lines of, "Gah, I was really liking this video, but the amount of inappropriate jokes really just took me out of it." I'm glad it took you out of it. Us normal people who aren't afraid to laugh at stupid jokes are going to continue to have fun. Keep seething. To start, there are many things that have stayed the same. Of course, the office layout is pretty much identical, 2 vents to the right and left of you, and a big open hallway in front. The camera setup has been left exactly the same as well, so at least we don't have to relearn the basics. What is different about the office, however, is the breaker box, which can be found behind you. Opening it, we can find breakers to several of the cameras around the map, and I'll explain why this is important a bit later. One thing I do want to point out right now, though, is why we whip around at breakneck speed. Seriously, look at how violent this animation is. Calm down, buddy. You're gonna give yourself whiplash. Dude, why the fuck does dude move so much? He turns around, he fucking whips. Look at him. Fuck, it ain't that deep, bro. Anyways, the next thing I want to talk about is your flashlight, as that has also been changed slightly. To start, you'll notice there is no longer a battery life to your flashlight. So you may be wondering how Balloon Boy is supposed to work without his integral mechanic. Well, hold your dick, little spastic. You're getting way too far ahead of yourself. Let's slow it down and take this little by little. Your flashlight is now used to flash not only the hallway, but the 2 vents as well, as now the vents don't have their own dedicated button. Before we continue on, there's also one little thing I do want to point out about your office I thought was funny. If you take a look at the clock on your desk, you'll see a coffee mug is blocking the second set of digits, probably so that the developers didn't have to actually program the clock ticking second by second. This literally plays no role in importance in the entirety of the game. I just think it's fun to see the way devs are able to cut corners sometimes. Anyways, moving on to the first threat this night introduces, those being Toy Chica and Toy Bonnie.
Oh shit, damn. Oh, damn, mama.
Sorry. Boing. They work the exact same way they do in the original with some minor tweaks. For one, if you weren't aware, let me give you a quick fun fact about Five Nights at Freddy's 2. If you dig through the game files, you'll be able to find an unused asset for Toy Chica. It's never seen throughout the game and was originally intended to be used to allow her to glide across your office like Toy Bonnie does. It's even completely coded in, but it's never called in the actual game. Well, Reimagined brings this back, and in a big way. Both Bonnie and Chica will enter your office after being in your vents. However, unlike the original, where you can see both Toy Bonnie and Toy Chica staring at you in the vents, in Reimagined, they instead chose to bolt through your vents at the speed of sound, giving you no time to see them in your vent. When you hear them coming, you have to put the mask on fast. Like, I'm talking fast as shit. These guys aren't playing around at all. If they get their hands on you, they're gonna rock your world. I'm talking tie your own dick into a noose and make you hang yourself with it. Ooh. God, no, not that. I meant to fucking put the mask on, bro. I meant to put the mask on. That jump scare was insane, by the way. Seriously, I'm probably not going to get around to showing you each of these jump scare animations, but you should go check them all out because these animations are clean as fuck. This entire game looks super clean. Keep in mind, this is Roblox. It is so impressive how good this game really looks. Anyways, moving on to talking about the game. More specifically, Night 2 and the new threats it introduces. Hold up, Dexter. What about the marionette? Does she not become active on this night? No, dear viewer. No, she doesn't. In fact, the marionette is completely absent from this game. That's right, FNAF 2 Reimagined removed the music box mechanic from this game entirely. So, with my dick as hard as a rock from getting that information delivered to me, let's happily heel click our way into Night 2. Night 2 only introduces one new threat, but it's a big one, Withered Foxy. Now, I want you to pause real quick. I promise you, he is nowhere near as carpal tunnel inducing as he is in the original. In the original, Withered Foxy would appear in your hallway. You'd have to spam your control key to flash your light at him until he disappears. Every time you'd flash, an invisible value would increase by 1, and when it reached 20, he would go away. He also showed up frequently as fuck, making him the second most annoying character in the entire game, right after Toy Bonnie. So, how does Reimagined fix him? Well, he actually has two different mechanics. The first still has him enter your hallway. He'll make a breathing sound cue when he does. All you have to do is hold the light on him for a little bit and he'll leave. No spamming required. However, if you hear this sound cue and for some reason don't see him in your hallway, that means he's either in camera 1, 2, 3, or 4. You will have to find which camera he's in and use your flash beacon, which, by the way, is just a beam of light I've chosen not to mention so far. When you do, he'll fuck right off. Perfect. Something interesting about the phone call on Night 2 is that Ryan called us in the first place. At the end of the Night 1 phone call, he said he wouldn't be calling us again because the boss, presumably William Afton, is breathing down his neck. So getting a call on Night 2 is surprising. He said he saw William inputting new parts into the old robots. He also tells us that these old models are very aggressive, which is interesting because usually the phone guys in these games will refuse to tell us anything about what's going on. Night 3 introduces two new threats, those being Mangle and Withered Freddy. Mangle is the easiest to understand, so let's start with her. She follows a very basic path, starting at the prize corner and making her way into your hallway. From there, she'll just crawl across the ceiling into your office rather than entering the right vent like in the original. Of course, all you need to do is put the mask on and it's problem solved. Now, on to Withered Freddy, who is the second reason to look at your cameras aside from Withered Foxy. Freddy is not fooled by the mask, something that you may find interesting given the fact he is in the original. And I have a theory as to why he is this way. We know William is using new parts on the old characters, which is why they're moving. Well, Toy Freddy never activates throughout this game. He literally has no mechanics. So my theory is that William is using parts from Toy Freddy to make Withered Freddy move around. For what reason? That I don't have an answer to. Anyways, what does Freddy actually do? Well, he begins in the main room and will slowly walk throughout the building to your office. Since he's an older model like Foxy, he's very sensitive to light, so the flash beacon will push him back a camera. Every time he moves, he'll make a very noticeable sound cue, making it easy to keep track of him. Overall, a mechanic I'm not usually a huge fan of, but it does get some brownie points for having a sound cue associated with it, I suppose. It's also during the Night 3 phone call we learn why Henry hasn't been showing up for work. Apparently his daughter died. Wow. Who would have thought? I wonder who could have possibly done that. Anyways, snooze fest bitches, Night 4 time it is. Introducing the final two characters this game has to offer, Withered Bonnie and Withered Chica. Both do the exact same thing, but just attack different sides of your office. Bonnie will attack your left vent and Chica will attack your right. They're just like their toy variants with one key difference. They're not affected by your mask. So how do you deal with them? Well, let's be adults and use context clues like grown-ups. Both Withered Freddy and Withered Foxy are sensitive to light. So, given the fact that Bonnie and Chica are also both withered animatronics, it's safe to say they'd be sensitive to light too. So, when you hear them crawling in your vent, which it does have a different sound cue to the toys coming through your vent, thankfully, all you have to do is hold your flashlight on that vent until they arrive. Instead of just leaving, they will actually throw you into a Five Nights at Candy's 3 style minigame, where they will jump around your office and you'll have to keep your light held on them until they eventually run away like little piss babies. Night 4's phone call mentions that the back room is starting to smell really bad. Like there's something rotting back there. Now, I'm no genius, believe it or not. I do talk about Five Nights at Freddy's for a living, but I'm gonna guess that that's because there's 5 dead children back there. Just a hunch, but I'm willing to bet I'm probably correct. Night 5 adds nothing new. However, I do want to use this time to talk about your breaker, since I haven't really done that yet. Occasionally, one of your cameras has the chance to randomly break and go out. When it does, all you have to do is turn around and reboot whichever camera went out. Super simple, and in all honesty, throughout my entire playthrough, which by the way you can see over on my second channel, Dexter Black, I actually rarely ever had this happen to me. And of course, another pretty important thing to bring up is the lack of characters in this game. Notably, Balloon Boy, the Marionette, Withered Golden Freddy, and Toy Freddy are completely absent and have no mechanics. And I actually think that the reasoning for this makes sense, if my reasoning is correct, that is. So, many of the characters in the original Five Nights at Freddy's 2 just do literally the exact same thing. Tell me what the difference between Toy Freddy and Withered Freddy are. Spoiler alert, there is no difference. In fact, the toy animatronics are actually disabled on nights 3 and 4 to instead be completely replaced by the Withereds. They serve no interesting purpose at all. You don't need Balloon Boy since there's no flashlight battery. The Marionette doesn't make sense since this game came up with a much better way to force you to look at the cameras. And Withered Golden Freddy isn't present for a lore reason, which we'll be talking about in a bit. And by a bit, I mean right now. After completing Night 5, we get this cutscene.
Michael, William just pulled into the parking lot. You need to get out of there now. Don't even bother with the parts and service room anymore. Just get the hell out. He knows you're in the middle of your shift. There's no other reason he would be there than to... Just get out. I'm waiting outside in my car right now. Let's get into the village. I called the police, but they won't be here for a while. This place is in the middle of nowhere. Wait. He's messing with something on the side of the building. Hold on.
Calm down. I'm not going to hurt you. He's afraid of me. He won't follow you in here even if he could.
How in the world are you talking to me?
What do you mean? I'm right here, aren't I?
You're not human. How could you talk to me?
I'm not human? Look at my hands right here. I'm talking to you right now.
But, never mind. Oh, this is insane. Who are you?
My name is Charlotte.
What the hell happened here?
He hurt us really bad. I was bleeding here, then I fell asleep. I can't move anymore.
You were bleeding?
Yes, I was bleeding right here, I think. After that, I don't remember much. Then I woke up.
Do you remember anybody else here with you?
My friends were here. He hurt them too. I tried to stop him, but the more I cried, the more it hurt. I just wanted them to be safe.
I'm sorry. You said he hurt us. Who is he?
You know who he is.
I believe I do. He's here right now. William.
I know that. He won't come in here anymore. He is afraid of me and my friends.
Are your friends the ones out there right now?
Yes, but they're confused and angry. They're looking for the one who did this to them.
Why are they so aggressive to me? I would never.
William was masked when he hurt us. They don't know who to blame. It doesn't help that you're wearing that uniform.
Why don't you just tell them?
It's not that easy. I can't talk to them the same way I can talk to you. They won't listen to me. I think they're still in shock.
How do you know the truth?
My father knew William. They were business partners. I never thought he would hurt us. I trusted him.
Do you really believe you're still human?
I don't feel any different. I can still see my hands and they look like my own. I just feel a little cramped. If I think about it too much, I'll go mad.
Where did William hide you and your friends after he hurt you?
I don't know. As I said, I fell asleep after he hit me.
Is there any way I can help you or your friends? Help you move on?
Burn this place to the ground.
But
It's the only way to help my friends. They'll get nothing from revenge. It'll only make them more confused.
okay, I can help you. Wait, one more thing.
Yes?
I haven't heard William in a couple of minutes. What is he doing right now?
Hiding, like a coward, waiting for me to kill you. He thinks I'm like the others. He believes that when my friends inevitably kill either you or Ryan, they'll get the closure they need to leave their bodies. It's a pipe dream, but his last resort. He's been trying to get us out for days now without destroying the characters.
Your father. You said he and William were business partners. His name is Henry, right?
Yes, his name is Henry. Please tell me he's alright.
I don't know. He's been looking for you. He filed a missing persons report to the police and he hasn't come into work for a week.
I don't want him to see me like this.
He'll find out the truth sooner or later. Okay, I think I'm ready.
Thank you for this. Break those pipes in the kitchen and you'll release flammable gas into the building. Do you have a lighter?
Of course.
William is hiding in the bathroom right now, waiting for you to walk down the hallway. Don't worry, my friends will find him shortly. They're relentless, as you would know. He doesn't have the slightest clue how aggressive they've gotten. It won't be pretty.
He'll get what he deserves.
That he will. Quiet. Listen. Quick, now's your chance. Let this place just become a bad memory.
So, we set William ablaze in typical FNAF fashion, and FNAF 2 Reimagined comes to a close. Kind of. When this game first came out, that is where the main story ended. However, months after, a DLC was released that introduced a sixth night. And that night is something so unique, I've only seen something like it once before.
Michael, you have a calling. Your efforts to save them, how selfless, have failed. They're still here with me. Charlotte, Oliver, Lucas, Ethan, and Zoe. I still remember their screams like it was yesterday. And they'll die again, and again, and again. Unless you come back to me and finish what you started. You're going to wish you never defied me.
Night 6 has us re-enter the restaurant after it burned down. We have one final task to complete, saving all of the children. This night reminds me heavily of the entire gameplay loop of A Shadow over Freddy's, mainly in the way you move around, and the only threat present. As you could have probably been able to tell from the cutscene, William, of course, didn't die from that fire. William will randomly wander around the building. When you run into him, you will have to do something. I literally have no fucking idea what it is you have to do though. I was never able to actually fully understand it. I got some comments from viewers over on Dexter Black because apparently I was just completely fucking wrong. I know it has something to do with your flash burst, which you only have 3 of. Something along the lines of when you see William, flash him, kind of, except it doesn't ever work. And even if you follow him into the next room he went into to try and flash him then, he'll just kill you instantly. I literally have no idea. Maybe I'm just retarded. Anyways, how do you actually save the kids? Well, behind the stage, you'll find a crank. You will use this crank to muff up all of the withered animatronics around the building, who are now barely able to move. Each room that one of these characters are in are what's known as a safe room, meaning that William will not be able to catch you there. And if you have William's attention from him spotting you, you will lose said attention if you enter one of these safe rooms. Using these safe rooms is what I used while playing this game since I was too stupid to understand what I was actually supposed to do. Freddy's corpse is located in the kitchen. Bonnie is in the bathroom. Foxy is in some fucking room. I actually have no idea what the name of this room he's in is called. And Chica is in one of the party rooms. The big opening to the hallway is blocked off, so you'll have to do a pretty big loop around the building in order to get them all. When you go to use the crank on each of the animatronics, a long animation plays. And it's during these animations you can really see how scared these characters appear to be. Really hitting home the fact that even though these characters are scary, they are still possessed by children. And you can really see the fear from them during these cutscenes, especially in Foxy's cutscene, which I feel shows how scared they are the most. After saving all the kids, you can go to the back room to save Golden Freddy, only for this to happen. Rotten hell.
Oh, I won't be going to hell. I'm going to watch the light leave your eyes, just as I did with them.
But why? What did they ever do to you? They're children.
She's waiting. Are you down for good, Michael? You never give up. That's what I liked about you. Go ahead. That's what you want so bad, right?
I want you dead. That's what I want.
Oh, Michael. You never were a good listener.
And with that, that's truly where Five Nights at Freddy's 2 Reimagined comes to a close. A borderline perfect recreation of one of the community's most hated official FNAF titles. But now we have to ask the question, Was a remake like this necessary? Did we really need someone to change the original game? I think the answer to that question is a resounding yes. Out of all of the official FNAF games, even though FNAF 2 isn't my least favorite, I can totally agree that it is the most boring and, in my opinion, the most uninspired. I mean, FNAF 2 only released 3 months after the first. That is not a lot of time in development for a game of any degree, and I think it really shows. From reusing mechanics from other characters to artificially inflate the roster, to having mechanics so utterly boring and bullshit like the music box in Withered Foxy, I truly think it's only fair to say that this game did Five Nights at Freddy's 2 better than Five Nights at Freddy's 2 ever could itself. Not only does this game look better, it plays better, sounds better, and is more enjoyable to play overall. Nothing feels too RNG based, and each character's mechanics are solid and unique enough. One of my biggest issues with the original Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is the fact that there is only one vent noise, but there are around 14 different instances where a vent noise plays, making the entire night a confusing, overstimulating mess. Of course, another very common problem people have with Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is the RNG. Of course, technically speaking, it can be beaten with no RNG, but that requires you to have a fuck ton of timers and a bunch of other bullshit, and normal people probably aren't going to be doing all that. Well, let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think that the original Five Nights at Freddy's 2 will always be better than this? Let me know in the comments below. In my Locked at Freddy's video, I asked you guys what your favorite FNAF game from 2025 was and why. My favorite comment was this one by David Holdorf. They said Showmans, and I agree. Easily one of the coolest and most unique FNAF fan experiences I've ever had. The question of this video is, what official FNAF game would you like to see reimagined next, and why? With the question of the video being asked, subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate it a lot. Thank you to all of my super fan channel members, you guys are the rizziest. I've been Dexter, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya!